23-year-old Erin King is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Avian Moses, for stopping payment on a rent check. Avian claims Erin kicked her out after 2 weeks of living together.
Ms. King, the defendant was your roommate for a short period of time. It is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had, and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment, and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Ms. Moses, you moved into Ms. King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305, including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying
Right,
on.
and I have that as well.
Okay, so that was November 14th. So far you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen, and I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts, and during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Erin of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook, I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I'll pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem, and I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Erin had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop payment on my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't
called
even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave immediately.
She called me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check, and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She did didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, gave them that. I wasn't.
When did she take it out, or did she still not?
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser,
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it. She changed the locks.
Listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. The court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is
Yes,
not
I
the
did.
first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $150, $250.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did. She said she
$150,
didn't want it.
$250. Absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Christine Bergdahl says ex-roommate Steven Sanchez owes for 2 months' rent and a security deposit.
Mr. Sanchez, did you have trouble finding the courthouse today, sir?
Not at all. Found it just fine.
Did you get here on time?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
15 till.
Huh?
No.
Well, what happened, Miss Bergdahl? Why couldn't you find the courthouse?
Because I've been under the weather a little bit, and it took me a while to get here today.
Are you sick?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the matter with you?
Well, I've been working for Red Cross in Louisiana, and since I've been back, I've had a cold, and I haven't recovered from it yet, and I haven't had a home to go to. So I've been moving from place to place with my luggage, and it's took a toll on my health.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Let me go into what the lawsuit is. I'm going to give you plenty of opportunity to speak, Mr. Sanchez. Ms. Bergdahl, this is what your lawsuit is about. You claim that Mr. Sanchez moved into your apartment with you. You lived together as roommates for about 6 months. He was supposed to pay half the rent. He didn't, but that's not what you're suing him for. You're suing him because you moved out in September. You told him to move out in September. He didn't move out in September. Your name is the only one on the lease. He didn't pay September's rent. He was still there in October. He didn't pay October's rent, as a result of which you lost your deposit on the apartment, which you claim is $1,000. You want Mr. Sanchez to pay the $1,000 that you lost in the deposit that the landlord kept, plus the $1,400 for rent for the month of September when you moved out.
Yes.
And now Mr. Sanchez wants to say something. So within the context of this case, sir, what do you want to tell me?
I was just going to say I've been under the weather, too, as you can hear in my voice.
Felt better
Made
in
it
my
on
day,
time,
too.
so
Bird,
that's all
I
I'm
know,
gonna
used
say.
to be better 10 years ago. You wake up, you have aches, you have pains, but when you have to get someplace, you get there, and you get there on time.
Correct.
Anything else you want to tell me right now? No, good. All right, Ms. Bergdahl, when did he move into your apartment?
He moved into my apartment at the end of January of 2005.
And how did you know each other?
We had mutual acquaintances before, and we slowly became friends.
And you moved out September what?
September the 9th.
Did you pay September's rent?
Yes, I did.
When did you move out?
Actually,
Is not an answer.
I am still residing there, and I'm in the process of working with the management company right now on that place.
How much rent did you pay in September?
$400?
Is that right?
He paid September. He paid half of. He did not pay $400. He paid $362 for half the rent in September.
What was the whole rent? What's the whole rent?
$725, ma'am.
You're still there?
That is correct.
And you're working with the management company to take over her lease?
That is correct.
Then you have to give her $1,000 if she can prove to me that she gave them $1,000. Show it to me.
Of that 1,000, I did participate with 300 of that 1,000.
Steven Sanchez owes everybody money. I'm the last person.
Just a second. Shh. Mr. Sanchez, just show me that you gave her $300.
And that's the problem. My work schedule does not allow me to gather up information, and that's the problem that I have. So
Well, you want to know what the problem you have?
it's bad. It's a bad problem. I'm
Glad
sorry.
you said that, sir. What kind of work do you do?
I'm
Is not an answer.
a manager at a car dealership, and it requires me to be there from open
You're
to
a
close.
manager at a car dealership.
Correct.
What kind of car dealership?
Fords.
Bird comes in with his lovely wife, Felicia, and wants to buy a Ford. And they come to you. You sit down, you work out a contract,
Correct.
And do you sell anybody a car? Do you order a car unless they do all the paperwork and sign all the paperwork? I know I've bought cars. There's usually a ton of paperwork,
correct.
Right? So you know that when you're buying a car, you have to be prepared to do a lot of paperwork. When you come to court, you don't come with a smile, Mr. Sanchez. You come with evidence, sir. So I don't know what that piece of paper is that you have with you, but if you claim that you gave her $300, then you bring proof of that.
Correct.
All right. So you have to give her $1,000. That's numero uno, despite the fact that she's late, without a legitimate excuse. Now let's deal with the rent. Did you pay October's rent? She wasn't there. You were there. Did you pay October's rent?
The situation with that was when she went to her retreat.
Just a second.
I'm leading up to the situation at hand.
Listen. Life is short. I'm
Correct.
getting older by the minute. I'll let you expand on the answer if I need it. Did you pay October's rent?
No, I did not, because I wasn't allowed to.
Just a second. Did you live there?
Can I say something, please?
Did you live there?
Yes, I did.
Fine. Now, who do you think is responsible for October's rent?
She's on the lease.
Right, and she wasn't living there.
Correct.
You were living there.
Correct.
Just a second. You know, you made me nervous. Something is going in my eye. Bird, look over here. Do you see? Oh, I got it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Does this look all right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
Thank you. All right. Listen to me very carefully, sir. The landlord is not related to you in any way. The landlord, I assume, is not related to Miss Bergdahl in any way. Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we have to craft this order so that the landlord gets paid their money. What you're going to tell me, Mr. Sanchez, is that you were not permitted to pay the landlord rent because you were not on the lease.
Correct.
Is that what you were going to tell me? You see what a quick learn I am, Mr. Sanchez? That doesn't mean that nobody expects Miss Bergdahl to pay the rent, do you? She wasn't there. She wasn't there in October. Did you pay November's rent?
No.
This isn't hurricane relief, sir. You're living in a place you're supposed to pay rent. So you make out the check to her and you say, pay the rent. Or you make out the check to the landlord, give it to her. She'll get it to the landlord because she's on the hook for rent. The landlord's not going to let you off the hook. Not going to let her off the hook. Somebody's going to pay October and November's rent.
Okay. I offered to pay time and time again. What the management company said is we need to talk to our lawyers and then we'll get back to you. I went and talked to her, I guess her name was Kathy, and she said that you need to vacate the premises. At that time, I was in the middle of a move going to LA to work for another Ford company, and I decided to stay in town because I got another job offer where I reside because it's closer to family. So instead of opening up another lease for a couple of months, I offered to pay 2 months of rent to stay there. What they had told me was, I didn't even know you were there.
So you were a very good tenant. You're very quiet.
I was very quiet.
You have to pay rent. People pay rent, a mortgage, rent, housing allotment. That's what you do. You don't expect her to pay for you, do you?
No, not at all.
Perfect.
I've offered to pay her also, and she denied it.
All right.
Can I say something?
No, do me a favor. I don't listen to tardy people. 700.
He has been asked multiple times by me and the management company to pay something because the person that actually hasn't received any money in 2 months, and he has refused to pay. We've even been over to the house. The landlord even went over to the house requesting money from him, and he didn't hand her
They did
anything.
not come over to look at the house. They came over to assess the situation of what happened and why she left.
And why didn't you pay him then?
Shh. I'm getting to that. The whole situation of what happened.
Listen to me. If it was all very nice, you wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be able to have such a pleasant afternoon.
The living situation was great. Okay, there was no problem. There was just one little issue of a coworker that she lived with that we became.
Listen, I don't care. I have other things to do. I don't care why she left. She left, and if you would have packed your bag and gone at the same time, then she would be stuck with her lease because it's her lease. You chose to live there, sir, for your own convenience. And you're a big boy. How old are you?
Old enough to know.
Is it a secret?
Yes.
It's a secret? How old you are?
33.
If I were 33, I would shout it from the rooftops.
You look 33, by the way.
That's very nice of you. It's not going to help you one bit. You owe her $1,000 for the security deposit because you're staying in the apartment. You owe the landlord $1,450. 2 checks, one to her, one to the landlord, $1,450. Mill Creek Management, Inc. is who the check gets made payable to. Thank you very much. That's all.
Diana Maddox is suing her ex-boyfriend, Charles Darnell, for the return of Christmas gifts she left in his home. Charles says the gifts went missing.
Ms. Maddox, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for many months. And the beginning of December of last year, you went Christmas shopping together. You purchased some items, some of which you left at his house. Those items that you left in his house, according to you, were Christmas presents for your grandchildren.
Yes.
And some other items. Sometime in mid-December, you broke up. And you claim that Mr. Darnell refuses to give you back the property that you left at his house. Mr. Darnell says that he has none of your property, that you must have come to the house to get it because you had a key to the house, and after you broke up, you came home, found your stuff gone. So he assumes that you took the Christmas presents, and that one of the items that you're suing for is a welder.
Yes.
And the welder, he says, was a gift to him from you.
No.
So let's start with the welder, so that would make things easy. When Mr. Darnell did you get the welder?
Sunday, December 3rd.
Now, was that a Christmas present?
Yes, it was.
Okay, tell me the circumstances surrounding that, Mr. Darnell.
We had went Christmas shopping. I had previously, on November 24th, I had paid to have a remote starting system put on her car for her Christmas present, and this was in return for my Christmas present.
So you had a remote put in her car. How much was that?
$187.20.
And how much was the welder?
I don't remember the exacts, but I would say the welder was in the $120 range. Plus, there was some accessories bought with it.
$178.75, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about this remote starter that he put in your car in November.
I asked for a Christmas gift of the remote start for my car.
And he put that in?
He did.
So he put that in as a Christmas present to you?
Yes.
And you bought this welder as a Christmas present for him?
No, I bought the welder as a Christmas gift for my son.
I don't believe you.
My son requested it.
Mr. Darnell, when she gave you the welder, what did she say?
Merry Christmas.
That's... Your Honor, that's not true.
Was it unwrapped?
It had never been wrapped.
Okay, let's leave out the welder for a moment, Miss Maddox. Let me hear about the Christmas presents.
On November 4th is when I actually started my Christmas shopping, and we had went to Sam's Club together, and for my 2 grandchildren, I had bought 2 TJ Berry Tales. They're animated learning teddy bears. The teddy bears actually read to my grandchildren. I purchased them for $128.10.
Why did you leave it at his house?
Because the animated teddy bears, some of the stuff was electrical, and I didn't want to leave it out in my vehicle overnight.
Okay, I see. Now, all the stuff that you purchased, that you left at his house, comes to how much, exclusive of the welder?
$479.30, or 38 cents, excuse me.
On what date did you break up?
December 9th.
According to your complaint, you tried to work things out on December 17th.
I had called and left a message on December 16th to talk to him.
Mr. Darnell.
I returned the phone call. She was argumentative, and I just didn't feel that I wanted to contend with it at that time.
Or at all?
Or at all.
So you didn't see her on December 17th?
No.
What happened on December 9th, sir?
We was supposed to go to her job Christmas party that evening, which I had already been to my business and taken care of stuff, and I got a call back that I had to go back due to an equipment problem. I tried to get a hold of her for over an hour, and she couldn't be gotten a hold of, and I finally did get a hold of her and told her that I couldn't go to the Christmas party, and she become upset about it. So I just finally told her that I think we needed to part company.
Okay. Now, at that time, these Christmas presents were at your house?
Yes, they were.
Where were they in the house?
They were in the living room.
And when did you find them missing, sir?
December the 18th.
Tell me about that.
I got home from work at approximately 4 p.m. and I noticed the stuff was gone, and there was a few of her personal effects that was gone out of the bathroom. And
what kind of personal items were in the bathroom?
Basically just cosmetic stuff.
And that was gone?
Yes.
Other than that, did she have anything else in your home?
No.
No clothes?
No.
So just the Christmas presents and some items in the bathroom?
Correct.
And that was gone? And when for the first time, Mr. Darnell, did Miss Maddox call you and say she wanted these Christmas presents?
On Thursday, December 21st.
Where did she reach you?
She called me on my cell phone.
And what did she say to you?
That she wanted her belongings back, and I asked her how I can give something back that I don't have.
And what did she say?
She said I was a liar. So the next thing I know, she was at my house with a Muskingum County deputy. She tried to make the deputy let her into my home, and I wouldn't let her in the home. And then he asked me about the welder. I said, yes, I do have the welder, but it was given to me as a gift. And he basically told her that was the end of it because it was given to me as a gift.
You have the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it, please.
It's not actually a report, it's a log where they showed up.
When you called the police, Miss Maddox, to accompany you, what did you tell them?
I told them that I saw him loading things into his car and I needed assistance to make sure that he didn't take off with the teddy bears. I thought it was the TJ Berry Tails.
When did you see him putting things in the back of his car?
On the 21st of December. I had called him, left him a message. He called me back, told me I would never get my belongings back. I had 3 CDs in my car. I didn't want it.
That was on the 21st?
This is on the 21st. So I went to his house anyway. I handed him the CDs because I didn't want them. I said, could I please get my stuff? And he said, you'll never get your stuff. So I left. I went to some pawn shops. Hoped maybe he had sold them. I could maybe buy them back for my Christmas presents. And they wasn't at the pawn shops. So there's a school behind his house, and for some reason, I pulled behind there and I saw him loading 2 boxes into the back of his car. And I thought they were the TJ teddy bears. I really wanted them for my grandchildren. So I called the deputies to help me get them.
Did they look in his car?
No. They said it was property. That's why they didn't. Because at that point on me, I did not have the receipts.
I have to make a judgment as to whether or not you're telling me the truth. What do you think I'm going to decide?
You'll probably rule in her favor.
I will. Do you know why?
Why?
Because she's telling me the truth. That's why. Because I've been in this business for 40 years. And that's why I can tell who's telling the truth and I can tell who's lying. And there isn't a question in my mind that this lady would not have come to court today unless she felt as if you did the wrong thing by keeping her grandchildren. It may have been other things, you know. There were other things other than gifts for her grandchildren. Maybe she would have let it slide. But it really irritated her that because you broke up in a way that was unpleasant, you took her property, which I believe, I don't know what you did with it. You sold it. You have grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your friend's grandchildren. Maybe someplace. Maybe you donated it to children. Who knows what you did with it? But there is no question in my mind that you had her property. The welder is yours, Mr. Darnell. I honestly believe you when you said to me that she gave you that as a quid pro quo for putting the starter in her car. And it was an early Christmas present, but not the toys. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $479. That's all.
John Allen claims former friend Karen Stevenson owes for a loan of $1,800.
Mr. Allen, it is your claim that the defendant borrowed some money from you. She's a former girlfriend of yours. Ms. Stevenson says that you're a con guy. She never borrowed any money from you. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Okay. Yes, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we decided to part ways, and we remained friends. On about the middle of September, about a week before I actually loaned her the money, she called me in desperation and said Lisa had taken a checkbook that no longer existed, a checking account, wrote a check out for $1,800. She needed money, that the bank was pressing charges, and
she wrote out a bad check?
Yes, Lisa.
Is Lisa here?
No.
Where is she?
She lives in Florida.
Who does she live with in Florida?
Herself.
What does she do for a living?
She's a cashier.
Ever been arrested?
No.
Ever been charged with crime?
Lisa? No.
Lisa?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So at the time when she called me, she said, I need this money. If I don't pay this $1,800 back.
For Lisa?
For Lisa, they're going to arrest me because it was drawn on my bank account. So...
Oh, just a minute. Where do you live?
Salisbury, Maryland.
You live in Maryland, and somehow Lisa got hold of one of her old checkbooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa forged a check for $1,800.
Yes.
But there was no longer an account.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa cashed a check in Florida.
Somewhere, I don't know actually, when she said, but it was a check written on this account, and it bounced, so the bank was going to press charges, and if she didn't pay the money back, they were going to put her in jail.
Put who in jail?
Karen.
It's not true.
She didn't write a bad check.
Well, that's what she told me, ma'am.
That sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't that sound ridiculous? How old are you?
I'm 40, be 42 in March, ma'am.
42. What do you do for a living?
I have a few businesses. I'm going back to school, getting my real estate degree, and
What kind of businesses do you have?
I have a business running a company. I started in 1990.
What does it make? What does it do?
Well, I buy and resell food as like a Cisco or a U.S. food service.
You do that now?
No, right now I am in the process of going back to school. The company.
So now you don't do anything?
No, the company still exists. I'm collecting my accounts receivables and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am. I'm still in the process. I have real estate I'm selling. I do various different things.
Who do you live with?
I live with my brother right now. I'm in the process of selling my real estate, my home.
You're in the process of doing an awful lot, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Are you in the process of going through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am.
Did you go through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Did you ever apply for a bankruptcy?
No,
Did you
ma'am.
ever consult with a lawyer about a bankruptcy?
Yes, I have.
When?
I consult with my lawyer in September, August, September, October, just discussing.
September of 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
About the same time that she was asking for some money?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why would you consult with an attorney about a bankruptcy, sir?
I'd just gone through a divorce that, you know, the settlement of property had to be dispersed. I had loans with my company, just seeking my different options, you know, out there. It was discussed, but it was never gone through. I'm in the process of selling my assets to pay debts. That was my choice to do it that way. You know, I want to make sure all of my bills are paid. That's why I'm selling my home, other real estate. I have a $1.5 million piece of business real estate that I'm in the process of selling.
What's the mortgage on it?
$790,000.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in June of '04.
In whose name is it?
It's in my company's name.
Which is?
Paradise Produce Company Incorporated.
Who else is a partner in Paradise Produce?
Nobody.
Current on your mortgage payments?
Not at this time, no. They are in the process of being sold right now.
Is there a contract for the sale of the property?
Yes, there is a contract for the sale of the property. It's pending on other things, you know, that's going on in the community. So.
You got a lot going on. You got a lot going
yes,
on in
I
your
do.
life, Mr.
I'm a very
Allen.
active man.
You're got a lot going on.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so she asked you for this $1,800, and what did you do, sir?
I
just wanted to get a sense, because I have to figure out who's pulling my leg and who's not.
I wrote her this check out from one of my bank accounts. I have numerous bank accounts because I have personal things, business things, and all that. And I actually wrote it out to her name and put loan on the memo. I handed this check to her on September 26th, and she took it, and I said, you can go right down the road and cash this check at my bank.
Where did you give it to her?
I gave it to her in the shopping center parking lot. I met her in Del Mar, Delaware, on the Delaware side. So that night, she called me back. She says, well, I don't think I can cash this check. I've lost my license, and I don't have a current checking account. I said, well, you can go right to the bank and cash this. I said, I made it out to you, and there's money in the checking account. She said, no, I'd rather you go to the bank and cash a check. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I said, but I would need this other check back. So the next day, I went to Laurie. This is my witness, Laurie Collins. Can I bring her forward, Judge? Or?
Who are you?
I'm a friend of John's.
What kind of a friend?
Close family friend for over 30 years.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went by Laurie's house. I discussed it with Laurie. I said, Laurie, I'm going to probably loan some money. I have loaned some money. She wants me to take the check back and go to the bank and cash the check and give her the $1,800. And Laurie said, well, just make sure that you keep this check here, the first check, if she gives it back to you.
First check is of no value.
Right.
Unless I can test for fingerprints on it.
Right. And then the second check is, I wrote her name in the memo that I cashed this check. Here's
yeah, well, that's what you wrote.
And I went to the bank.
You cashed the check and wrote her name in the memo.
Right. So I told Laurie, I said, Laurie, I have loaned this lady some money. I said, as a friend, I just wanted somebody to know that I had loaned her the money.
Was she there when you gave her the money?
No, ma'am.
Good. Sit down.
And at the time I wrote the check out, I have bank accounts with different amount of figures in it. You know, right now, $25,000 on this. If I needed it, she claims that I needed the money for myself. I don't need it.
Just show me the account where you took out the $1,800.
Yes, right there.
Okay.
Your Honor, he states that the first check that he wrote me, he had $1,800 in that account. That's the check he first gave me. I subpoenaed his bank records. $1,800 was not in there. He had
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. He had $72.79 in
Let
that
me see.
account.
Can I see that check, please? Sir, You wrote her a check on 9/26 for $1,800. You didn't have $1,800 in that account.
Right.
On which you wrote this $1,800 check.
Right.
Well, why would you write her an $1,800 check and tell her to go?
Because I was going to make a deposit in the account. I moved money from different checking accounts. I have interest-bearing accounts with my business and everything like that. I move money when I need money to pay bills like in the
but you
business.
didn't move any money here, sir. You didn't move any money here. 3 days later,
she gave me the check back because she said that she couldn't cash it.
I understand that.
Because she didn't have a license.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
That was not the same day, sir. You already testified. It was the next day that she called you and said, I don't have a driver's license, and therefore I can't cash this check.
Right.
Now, you had already told her to go and cash the check, which she could have done on 9/26.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? On 9/26, if she went to your bank,
yes, ma'am,
and deposited that check, they would not have cashed that check because there was no balance in that account.
They could have moved the money from my business account, which is with the same bank, to cover my overdraft.
There's no overdraft privilege in here.
I'm sorry, I did lend this lady some money.
Go ahead.
He also says he gave me the $1,800. I was leaving that day to go out of town for a wedding. I was running around getting my nails done, my hair done. He didn't give me $1,800.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, let's start out with the conversation that you had with him about Lisa.
There was no conversation about Lisa. He knows she was in town for maybe a week or two. She moved back to Florida. I don't have a checking account. I don't have any checks. I haven't had a checking account in 3 years.
So you never had a discussion with him about a loan?
No.
Never had a discussion with him about giving you any money?
No.
Why do you think he would make up this convoluted story?
Your Honor, his business account had been frozen because he owes so many people money. Okay? He couldn't even make payroll. John and I continued to talk. We were good friends. He wanted me to help him take the money out of his county bank and put in a safety deposit box, put in my name, and he wanted to put the cash in there so they couldn't touch that money. Then I told him I didn't want to be involved in that because they're going to want to know where this $21,000 is. I didn't want that in my name. I didn't want any part of that. He tried to get several people to do that, and I wouldn't do it.
So what you're saying is he tried to get several people to accept checks?
Yes.
From him?
Yes.
And squirrel away the money?
Yes.
In the event he decided to go through this with this bankruptcy?
Absolutely.
Keep going.
I mean, he says in one statement that I was supposed to pay him back in 2 weeks. John and I continue to be friends. He had a surprise birthday party for his brother. I was invited.
Don't tell me. Just tell me about the money.
There was.
When you told him that you didn't want to participate in this scheme,
yes,
what did he say to you?
That he had a couple other people that were thinking about taking the money and putting it in a safety deposit box, storing his personal property so it wouldn't be auctioned off, which it has been.
What personal property did he want to store with you?
Pool tables, big screen TV, four-wheeler, living room furniture, kitchen furniture, I mean, bedroom suits. He had a 2-story house fully furnished. All that stuff has been auctioned off.
They've been auctioned off by whom?
An auctioneer.
At whose?
I guess at his request. I really don't know. I know that his house was for sale.
Did you have an auction?
Yes, ma'am, I did. To pay my debts and everything. The pool table, big screen TV, all that stuff was auctioned off to pay debts that I incurred during the divorce. I am in process of selling 2 pieces of property, a business piece of property, all my assets to pay my debts. I am not filing for bankruptcy. I am
Well,
going to
it's
be
a little
paying.
more difficult now to file for bankruptcy,
Yes, ma'am.
sir, because what you're suggesting to me is if you own a piece of property that's worth $1.5 million and you have a $790,000 mortgage,
yes, ma'am.
If you file for bankruptcy, you're not going to see any of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to see any of that money, if you pay off your creditors now, then you'll be able to maybe walk away with a couple $100,000.
No, ma'am, I'm not going to walk away with anything. My assets are about $2.2 million. I owe about $2.1. So, time I pay auctioneers, you know, realtors, all that stuff.
So it doesn't pay for you. So you have assets of $2 million and you have debts of about the same. So you can't go into bankruptcy. That doesn't mean you're bankrupt. It just means that you have to go to work. Business people, you have mortgages, you have attorneys, you have all kinds of other things. And you're not unfamiliar with court.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you come to a court and you say, I made a loan to this lady. Put your hand down. I made a loan to this lady. I did not memorialize that loan in any way. This check is of no value.
Right.
Because she never endorsed it. I can take out my checkbook and write out a check to Petrie Hawkins Bird in the amount of $10,000 and say, I gave him this check.
Right.
He gave it back to me, and I gave him the 10 grand in cash. And this is some evidence that I gave him that money, right?
Right.
I didn't give you any money to him. No. So this is evidence of nothing.
Right.
The only evidence that it is, sir, is that she subpoenaed this bank account, which says at the time you allegedly wrote this check out to her, you didn't have sufficient money to cover the check in the bank.
Right.
Now, you did have another bank.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you could have written a check that would have cleared.
Right.
As a matter of fact, according to you, you did just that 3 days later. You didn't go to this bank, where you could have moved money around. You went to this bank, where you took out $1,800. All of this leaves me with a very uneasy feeling, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I have a very uneasy feeling, sir, the fact that you brought a witness that says that you told her all about this loan is of no value. So, Mr. Allen, it is possible, just possible, that you loaned her $1,800.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You understand my problem with your proof, sir?
I understand. I understand.
Are you sympathetic with me, sir?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Timothy Rodriguez claims ex-girlfriend Elizabeth Johnson owes for 2 accidents with his truck.
Mr. Rodriguez, Miss Johnson was your girlfriend for a period of time, and it is your claim that on 2 occasions she caused an accident which damaged your truck, and you want her to pay to have your truck repaired.
Yes.
Miss Johnson acknowledges that there were 2 accidents in the truck while she was driving. Her answer seems to indicate that you told her at the time it was no big deal and you would take care of fixing them. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that you have bad temper, that you damaged the apartment by putting holes in the wall with your fist, and that at one point you assaulted her. That's her counterclaim. Is that right?
Yes.
Who is this lady?
That's my daughter's mother.
Can you tell me why she's here?
She was a witness to a phone call that I spoke with Elizabeth about my payments to my truck for the damages. And she heard the conversation with her.
And how old is your daughter?
My daughter's 2.
Is that your only child?
I have 2 other children, too.
You thought about that for a second. How old are your other 2 children?
I got one that's 10 and one that's 8.
And who do they live with?
They live with their mother.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm a union carpenter.
How much do you earn a year?
Roughly about $40,000.
And your 8 and 10-year-old, they live with their mother?
Yes.
And what does their mother do for a living?
She's just a stay-at-home mom.
You must be very wealthy.
No.
Well, who supports your 8 and 10-year-old children?
I do.
How much do you send them?
I send the mother probably about $500–600 a month.
You send her about $500 or $600?
It all depends on how much money she needs throughout the month.
You have a court order, sir?
No.
Even if I believed, sir, that you sent her $500 a month, she's not supporting herself and 2 children on $500 a month. How does she support herself?
Her boyfriend.
She lives with a boyfriend?
Yes.
And he supports her?
Yes.
What does he do for a living?
I'm not even sure.
Don't you see your children?
Yes.
And you have no idea? Well, how often do you see your children?
I see them probably about 3 times a month.
Somehow, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm not getting the sense that I'm getting truthful answers from you, sir. But I'm going to find out. Now, this young lady who's here has a 2-year-old child.
Yes.
You under court order to pay her support?
Yes.
How much?
I pay her $83 a week, a total of $103 a week for arrears, $20 towards arrears of child support.
So there was a time when you weren't paying child support?
Yes, before I got into the union.
And how much do you owe her?
Right now, the remaining balance on it is $600 and some change.
And how does she support herself?
She has a full-time job.
Who takes care of the baby?
Daycare.
Who pays for the daycare?
Her and I both share daycare.
How much do you pay towards the daycare?
$43 a week.
So far, is all that correct?
Yes.
$1,221 a month you pay out.
Yes.
Going to get there. Mm-hmm. Who do you live with?
I live with my mom.
You pay rent?
Yes.
How much?
$300 a month.
You have a car?
Yes.
Pay insurance?
Yes.
How much?
That's $2,300 every 6 months.
$22,000, like $23,000. We're up to $23,000, right?
Yes.
You see where I'm going, sir? You eat,
Yes.
You have credit cards?
No.
Pay for everything in cash?
Yes.
You have a truck payment?
Yes. $387 a month.
$400 a month?
Yes.
So now we're up to about $30,000 a year.
I also work a second job, full time.
Oh, the courts know about that?
Yes.
Betcha. They don't. How much do you earn at but they will now. How much do you earn at the second job?
To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure. I'm up to $7 an hour on that job. Sometimes I work 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week.
The reason I'm asking you all these questions, Mr. Rodriguez, is I was really interested in Miss Johnson's answer. While she acknowledged that she was in these minor accidents with your car, there was a little damage, she says that her mother, I assume this is her mother,
Yes.
was nice enough to loan you $6,000 to pay back child support.
Your Honor, that wasn't all for child support.
What was it for?
Well, it was $1,900 of it went to child support.
So $2,000, according to you, went for
Yes.
child support, and the
Yes.
other $4,000?
The other $4,000, I paid some bills that I had that were past due, and then it was like $2,000 of it that me and Elizabeth went out and spent.
You borrowed $6,000 from her and you signed a note?
Yes.
Have you paid it back?
I have.
Is not an answer.
No.
When did you borrow the money?
May 6th.
I believe it was like July 24th
May 6th.
or May 6th. May have been May 6th.
May, July, they sound alike. Why haven't you paid it back?
Elizabeth got a restraining order against me, and the judge told me not to make any contact with them whatsoever.
Are you mad? I mean, is that the reason you're giving me? You have to understand, Mr. Rodriguez. I can tell phonies from at least 10 feet away. The fact that she's got a restraining order against you doesn't mean you can't send a Federal Express to her mother with a payment.
I asked the judge that. He said no contact whatsoever if she wanted her money from me.
Are you kidding me? You mean that but for that, the money would have been in her hands already?
Yes. I went to court today at a restraining order, and I had to check for her.
Good. Perfect. Do you have it with you?
No, not today.
What do you know? I would have taken it for her. You've got a spare check in your wallet?
No.
Take a look.
I didn't bring any checkbooks or nothing today.
See why I don't trust you, Mr. Rodriguez? Because you tell such good stories. You may tell them over and over again. And you actually believe that you can come here and tell me a story.
Your Honor, it's not a story.
Which irritates me.
It's not a story.
Which irritates me. Well, Mr. Rodriguez, you knew you were coming to a neutral setting today. You knew that you owed this lady the money. Nothing would have prevented you from saying, Judge, while I'm here, because I'm asking you as a court of equity to take care of this problem that I have, I want to take care of my debts, and I owe her $6,000. So I would really like to be able to give you the check for her, because I have the money. I'd like to give you the check so that you can give it to her and I won't be violating any restraining order. You got it.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Johnson, I want you to tell me about the first accident you had with Mr. Rodriguez's car.
I was picking him up from work. It was a little wet out, and the tractor trailer was coming into my lane, so I hit the brakes and I hit the guardrail instead of him hitting me, so that's what happened.
And how much damage was done to the car?
I have pictures.
I'd like to see it. And what was the date of that incident?
I'm not exactly sure. It's sometime in June. This is the side of the damage.
And I'd like you to keep your voice up because, you know, my hearing isn't what it used to be when I was 12. Oh, well, you did a damage to the light and to the bumper. What year truck is this, Mr. Rodriguez?
A 98.
Did you cover this on your insurance?
No.
Why not?
I didn't call it into the insurance company because I felt as though, why should my insurance go truck?
Okay. Did she say she would fix it?
Yes, she did.
How much is the estimate that you got to fix it?
$23,1509.
And tell me about the second accident, Ms.
The second
Johnson.
accident, we were driving to a second job, and he was arguing with me, and I was stopped at a red light, and the light turned green, and he was still arguing with me, and I looked over at him, and I thought the cars were going, so I started to go, and then I tapped somebody in the back because he had stopped.
You have a picture of the damage?
I don't have a picture
Your
of
Honor,
that.
I have pictures.
There's a little dent in the middle of the...
I'd like to see it.
There are pictures of the car that she hit and my truck also.
Well, that's the same bumper that's going to have to be repaired. When they take the bumper off and they fix it from the first accident, they're going to fix the second one.
Well, the first one where she hit, it was only the side fender and the light and
No,
a couple
no,
of
no, no,
scratches
no,
on
no,
the
it
side of
wasn't.
the bumper.
No, it wasn't. It was down here. And here.
Yes.
And this one is right in the middle, right here. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, then they take it off. They'll fix them both. Now, that's your case. What makes you think he forgave this debt?
He told me when he was trying to get back with me after I broke up with him, he said, don't worry about it, I'll pay for it. That's what he said.
No.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Now, is that your complaint against
Also,
us?
I have an estimate from the car rental because I'm going to need to rent a car for a week.
Take the bus. Maybe she'll loan you her car. Now, you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
He damaged my holes in the wall. I mean, the holes in the wall.
You have pictures of that?
Yes. The bruise on my arm.
When did that happen?
The 22nd of July.
Tell me what happened.
I asked some girl, called his phone, and he said, how did you get my number? And he hung up on her, so I called her back. She told me that they had conversations, and he kept saying, no, I didn't talk to her, I didn't talk to her, and he swore up and down, all three of his kids, that he didn't talk to her.
I didn't follow this from the beginning. You have to go through this slowly for me. Sorry. You know, I'm not really up on this intrigue. You found somebody's number on his phone?
She had called his cell phone. He picked up the phone and he said, how did you get my number? And then he hung up on her. He got out of the truck to unload a car because we were at his job. And so I called her back. And we were talking.
What'd you do that for?
Just to ask her a question. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have any arguments with the girl on the phone, nothing. So I called her back and she told me that they had conversations and then we hung up. When he got back in the truck, I asked him if he had talked to her. And he said, no, I didn't talk to her. And he swore up and down on all his kids that he didn't talk to her. You know, for about 3 hours he kept saying, no, I didn't talk to her. So he told me, go ahead, check on the Sprint bill. So I went and checked on the Sprint bill. 33 minutes of conversation with the girl's number, and he didn't call her.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
I never denied talking to her.
Yes, you did.
So you had a fight?
It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and, you know, we were fighting, and he said, I'm tired. I said, well, I'm tired, too. If you didn't lie to me, we wouldn't be going through this. He got so pissed off of me, he picked up the candle off my TV with the glass dish, threw it at me, and hit the wall.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Yes, it is.
How did the holes get in the wall, sir?
I seriously don't know. I did repairs on the mother's house for the bedroom, the bathroom, and the outside siding. Why would I damage a house that I just fixed?
Just asked you how the holes got in the wall.
I have no clue.
Okay. Did you have the walls fixed?
Yeah, I have an estimate for that, to get them fixed.
Was this in your apartment?
This is in my mother's house, in my bedroom.
Was he staying with you?
Yes. For the 4 months that we were going out, he lived at my house.
Why?
Because she
I felt bad
asked,
for him.
she asked me to move in with her.
I did not.
After the first time that we went out, she asked me to move in with her.
Mr. Rodriguez, we've only just met, you and I.
Yes.
I can tell you're instantaneously attracted to me. If I said to you, I want you to move in with me, would you do that?
No, I wouldn't.
No. That would be very smart, Mr. Rodriguez. I mean, it's so stupid what you said. I mean, do you think you're a stupid man?
No.
You just met her and she asked you to move in with her, so you moved in with her?
Yes.
You have a bridge?
For sale?
Yeah.
I can find one.
You can find one. Okay. According to what I read in your answer, there was something in your answer, Miss Johnson, that suggested to me that you were aware of the fact that Mr. Rodriguez had a bad temper. Is that right, madam?
Yes.
You did. And how did you know that Mr. Rodriguez had a bad temper?
With her. He told me stories. They've been in and out of court for 5 years. She tried to get a restraining order.
Some of it for domestic violence? Is that right?
Yes.
And despite all that, you invited Mr. Wonderful into your house.
Yes.
And your mother, who I don't even want to talk to, was dumb enough to give him money.
Yes.
You must live off a substantial inheritance.
No.
Where did you get the money from that you loaned to him?
I borrowed it off my credit card for him, so he would not go to jail for back child support, which was about $4,000.
Who did you owe back child support to? This lady or the mother of the other 2 children?
This lady.
Stand up. Over there. Did you pursue that matter in court of the back child support? Did you pursue it or did the state pursue it?
I didn't pursue it. They had already, when I had our daughter, I had to call and enter a child support order. We had
Why?
Because we weren't together at the time.
Who was supporting you?
I was living home with my parents, and I had a job.
You never received any government assistance?
No.
So somebody had to report him for not paying child support. That would have had to have been you.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's all. Sit down. Now I got it. Now you say that during this altercation with the candlesticks, he also assaulted you.
Not at that time.
When did he assault you?
I had kicked him out on July 25th. We had a week of nasty phone calls because I wanted my stepfather's tools back that he wouldn't return. And then 2 weeks after that, I was at a funeral, And he called me, he texted me, he said, I'm sorry about your grandfather, and, you know, and then I talked to him again. 2 weeks he was begging me to come back to him. Please take me back, I'm sorry, you know, and that's when.
Well, so then you said okay.
I said okay, and about 2 days later, I spent the night at his friend's house with him, and the next day is when I had to get a restraining order against him.
Well, tell me what happened at the friend's house. Well, you didn't learn your lesson yet, Miss Johnson.
Well, we got into an argument, and I wanted to go home, so he...
About what?
About anything and everything.
Your Honor, about one of my roommates that was walking around in a sports bra. That's
One of your...
A roommate
Yeah.
on where I'm staying at now. She was walking around with a sports bra, doing her dishes, and her boyfriend was there with her, and she freaked out on me about her doing that. And I said to her, there was nothing I could do about her walking around with a sports bra on. It's her house, too. I can't say nothing to her.
No.
And this was all the day before I was supposed to go and have surgery that following Monday.
Surgery on?
I had some medical problems.
So we had an argument. Yes, she was walking in a sports bra.
I don't care if she was walking in a sports bar or if she was walking around with a G-string. It makes no difference to me. I want you to tell me how it came about that you say he put his hands on you.
I'm getting there. So I asked him to take me home, so he took me home, and then on the way home, he, you know, was buttering me up, so I agreed to go back. And about 3 hours later, we got into another argument because he was getting jealous because one of my friends was texting me. So then, you know, I said, I want to go home, I want to go home, and he put his hands on me and he grabbed me and said, no, stay. And I said, no, I want to go home. And I had my bag, you know, I had everything in my hand. He just kept grabbing me, broke my cell phone, he threw it down the stairs. He swung his hands after he threw my cell phone down the stairs and hit me in the eye right here. He threw me onto the couch, onto the floor.
You have a police report?
I do, Your
I have
Honor.
the restraining order. The restraining order. The temporary
No,
restraining
I don't want to see the restraining
You want the
order. I want
restraining
to see a
orders
police
too? I
report.
got copies of them too.
Of what?
I got copies of the restraining orders too if you want to see them.
Then I'll ask for it. So you had marks on your face and so did he, because you hit him and he hit you. Is
I
that
slapped
right?
him in the face after he threw me on the couch and onto the floor.
It says that you hit him twice.
No, I hit him.
It was more than twice, Your Honor.
Yeah, but according to the police report, you hit him twice.
After he threw my phone down the steps, I hit him on his back, and then he continued to grab me.
I assume you're not going to have anything to do with him anymore, is that right? I'm dismissing your counterclaim. Deal with it. You better smarten up, Miss Johnson. You don't look like a stupid girl, but you've done a lot of stupid things. Now, as far as your complaint is concerned, Mr. Rodriguez, I believe that she owes you for the damage that she acknowledges that she did to the truck. Your estimate was for $23.
I have an agreement, too.
It was for 23-15-09.
23-15.
Yes, 09.
We are holding that judgment in abeyance, which means that you will not be getting paid on that judgment. You will get paid on that judgment when this court receives a canceled check, canceled by her, for the amount you owe her. Do you understand?
The full amount?
Do you understand?
$5,300.
Your Honor?
$5,300.
$5,300. When this court receives, sir, proof by way of a canceled check that you have paid the $5,300 remaining on your debt.
Even though we had an agreement signed?
$5,300, sir. When we receive proof that you have paid her, money that you acknowledge that you owe her, is that right?
Yes.
You'll get your check. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye and good luck.
Eric Kim claims former friend Patricia Davis owes for car rental fees and the cost to repair her computer. Eric claims Patricia used him.
Mr. Kim, how did you meet the defendant?
I met her over the internet, over a dating service, Match.com.
And when was your first face-to-face meeting?
We exchanged phone numbers and talked, and then she needed some computer services, and I had my own computer business, so we met a couple weeks after that.
Where?
At her house.
But you were going there really for social reasons, is that right, sir?
Social and professional.
Social.
Well,
Don't listen,
yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes.
Let's understand each other. I read your complaint very carefully.
Okay.
Your complaint alleges the following, sir. That she owes you for computer services that she agreed to pay you for. More importantly, according to you, she sort of conned you into renting a car for her for a day, and she kept the car for a couple of weeks, and you want her to pay the cost of the car. Ms. Davis says that you were a very generous fellow. You fixed her computer because you were a nice guy and you were interested in her, and you rented her a car, right?
I didn't take advantage of him. No.
Listen, when you have a legitimate case, don't muck it up with nonsense.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Kim? You didn't meet her online because she was looking for a repairman.
No, she wasn't.
You met her online through a dating service because you were looking for a date.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not the way you get your business, right?
Nope.
So you went to her house, Mr. Kim, for the purpose of meeting her in person.
True.
Now, you knocked at the door, you rang the bell, and she answered the door, and you went, aha. Right?
Yes, I did.
Good. And you went inside, and what happened when you went inside, Mr. Kim?
I looked around, and she had a very nice place.
Good. Did you have a meal? Did she offer you a drink? Did she offer you a cup of coffee? Did you go out? What did you do?
We just talked, and she mentioned that she
You
saw...
were talking. Miss Davis, are you accustomed to inviting people over to your house that you meet on the internet? Don't you know that that's dangerous, madam?
No,
Is not an answer.
I don't usually. I usually do not invite people over to my home.
Well, why did you invite Mr. Kim?
Well, we had chatted online several times and talked on the phone several times before we finally connected, and I felt it was safe. He told me he had a computer business. I did do a search online, and I did see his business online, so it wasn't like I was inviting some axe murderer over to my house.
Well, you don't know that. He may have been an axe murderer with a computer business.
Could have been.
Don't speak. Did you go out, or did he stay in your house?
He stayed in my house.
For how long?
Probably about 2 hours.
What were you doing in the house for 2 hours?
He was fixing my computer and then hooking up my wireless.
Did you ever see him again?
The second time when he rented me the car.
When did he come to your house and fix the computer?
What date was it? January? I don't even know.
November.
November.
Mr. Kim, what date did you go to her house?
November 5th, 2005.
Okay. Now, she said you were there for a couple of hours, you worked on her computer. When you left, Mr. Kim, can I see a copy of the bill you left her for the repairs of her computer? Thank you. This is dated December 15th, sir.
Well,
I asked you, listen to my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question was a very specific one, Mr. Kim.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see a copy of the bill you left for Miss Davis on November the 5th. And the answer is, Mr. Kim, you did not leave her a bill.
That's true.
You generated a bill on December 15th, right?
Right.
Was that before or after you rented a car for her?
That was before.
When did you rent the car for her?
November 9th through the 17th.
Listen to my question very carefully, Mr. Kim. I said to you, did you generate this bill before or after you rented the car for her?
It's after.
Right. So between the time you fixed this computer allegedly for money and the time you rented the car for her, you did not generate a bill.
No, ma'am.
How long have you been in the computer business, Mr. Kim?
About 5 or 6 years.
When you fix a computer, sir, do you generate a bill within the first day, 2 days, 3 days?
Right after I finished the job.
Right. Okay. So now, Mr. Kim, I'm giving you back this bill.
Okay.
Is this a friend of yours, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
He's going to tell you what you can do with it.
Okay.
So let's just forget about the computer part of it, with what I consider the potential legitimate case that we have here, which is the fact that Miss Davis took advantage of your generosity when you offered to rent a car for her for a day. Now, how did this car business come about, Mr. Kim?
She explained that she needed a car to see a friend of hers in Oakland, and I said that I would rent it for her.
Why?
Because her credit was bad.
She told you that?
Yes.
I didn't say my credit was bad. My credit cards were maxed out.
Okay. Who's in Oakland?
My ex-boyfriend.
Was he an ex-boyfriend then?
Yes.
So what were you going to visit him for?
He had surgery on his ankle.
This isn't the ex-boyfriend,
No.
is it? Who is this?
Thomas Greenwood. He's my friend. He's my... He
has a car.
Yeah. He was a witness to...
What?
They didn't catch it, but I caught that one.
Listen to me. She called and said she needed a car for a day, so you agreed to rent a car for her for a day. What happened, Mr. Kim?
She promised that she would return it, paying for the amount for the rent the next day, and That was what we agreed upon.
What date did you go to Oakland?
The 8th or the 9th of November.
So what happened?
I went there and I saw my friend, and I stayed there for a couple of days, and then I came back to my house, and then back to the Bay Area again a few more times. And then all of a sudden, the police show up at my house. And I was in bed asleep, and they, I didn't lock my door because I live in a nice neighborhood. I didn't think I had anything to worry about. And I hear this, when I'm 12, all those CB radios and stuff. And I wake up, and they have, guns drawn on me. And I said, what's going on? They're all, we're here for the stolen car. I said, stolen car? There's no stolen car. And they said, well, we have a report that there's a stolen car here.
Mr. Kim, how many times did you try to reach her between the 8th of November and what day, the 16th?
Yes, at least 4 times a day.
Did you leave any messages?
The message box was full.
What do you do for a living, Miss Davis?
I'm a receptionist for a doctor's office.
For how long?
6 years.
Same doctor?
Same doctor.
What kind of doctor is it?
Podiatrist.
You have any children?
1.
Where's that child live?
Half the time with me and the other half with her father.
Okay. Now you can stand up. Who are you?
I'm her friend. I guess I get to handle the axe murderers.
How long have you known the defendant?
About 7 years.
Have you ever met Mr. Kim?
Yes, I have.
When?
The day that he came over to do the repairs on the computer.
Tell me about that meeting.
It was formal. I tried to stay away from them. He was working on the computer. I was just there to, lend support. I was over visiting my friend.
So she wasn't there alone?
Correct.
When Mr. Kim came over?
Yes.
Very nice. So what do you know about this car, sir?
Only that they agreed to...
Don't tell me what they agreed, sir, unless you were there when the agreement was made.
Well, they talked about renting the car at that point.
They did?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard.
I don't recall who brought it up. I just, the fact that she didn't have a vehicle and that they had problems, getting a hold of each other. He was offering and she was, lending it to be known that,
Sit down. Why would people come on national television to make a fool of themselves? You don't want to say anything, do you?
No, ma'am.
Perfect.
I could.
Can I say something?
Shh. You see, Miss Davis, when you come to court, you have to file papers. Mm-hmm. Paper that you filed was an answer. Mm-hmm. In order to be a good witness, you have to remember what you file in an answer. Do you understand?
Correct.
And you have to be very careful because the judge is usually smarter than you are.
Right.
In this case, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
So, in this case, what you said was, I was having trouble getting around, and he volunteered to let me have a car, and he volunteered to rent it for me, so it would be easy for me to get around. So that when I said to you specifically, very quickly, so that you didn't have time to think, who was in Oakland? Because that you didn't mention in your answer.
No.
No. He mentioned it in his complaint. He said you had somebody that you had to see in Oakland that you needed to rent a car for a day. Mm-hmm.
But I have guys help me out all the time. I've had a guy buy me a BMW before.
Well, you must know how to do something right, Miss Davis. Nobody ever bought me a BMW. How much was the car?
$11.77 and 45 cents.
Now, Mr. Kim, you picked somebody that you hardly knew, right?
Yes.
That told you that she had maxed out credit cards, or according to bad credit, whichever one. You're a businessman. You're a businessman. I mean, maybe you thought you were going to get some of the benefits of the BMW guy, but that doesn't mean that you lay out the credit card first, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1177.45. That's all.
22-year-old Chris Hopkins is suing his former friend, 22-year-old Corey Ferris, for veterinary bills. Chris claims Corey got his dog drunk during a party.
Bird, what kind of cases do I hate?
You hate cases where people are drunk.
Yes!
But they look nice.
Well, they're at least dressed. They put on ties. Mm-hmm. They're neat drunks. But they're college students. Is that right?
That's right, Your Honor.
I have a couple of questions before I get into this dumb drunk case. What school do you go to?
University of Georgia.
And what year are you in?
I am about to graduate in the fall.
You know what the tuition is?
I think it's about $3,000 a year.
Do you live on campus?
I do not live on campus. I live just off campus in a house.
And rent on the house for you, your share?
$650 a month.
Take your hands out of your pockets. How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
Okay. Do you go to school full time?
I do.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for Miller Brewing Company.
And how much did you earn last year?
Approximately $7,000 last year.
Okay. So, pocket money.
Yes.
And who's footing the bill for this tuition?
My father.
Now, you, Mr. Ferris.
Yes.
You have about the same expenses, sir?
Maybe a little less, but pretty much. Except for I don't pay tuition, I have a scholarship.
Okay. Do you work?
It's
not an answer.
Didn't work, I just graduated in May.
Okay, so who supported you while you were going to college?
Well, mostly my dad.
Good. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Hopkins, you were having a party at your house.
That's correct, Your
At
Honor.
your rental house.
No, it's owned.
By whom?
By me.
You own the house.
That's correct.
Where you live.
That's right.
Good. How did you save up enough money to buy this house?
My grandmother left me money, Your Honor.
So you took your grandmother's money.
That's
Let me
correct.
understand something. You took your
And I
grandmother's...
invested it.
Listen to me. You took your grandmother's money and you invested in a house.
That's right.
Where you charge rent to other people.
That's correct.
And you have parties where there's a lot of drinking.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Hopkins, you had one of those wild parties where everybody was drinking, and you have a dog.
Right.
And it is your complaint that Mr. Ferris fed your dog alcohol, as a result of which your dog got sick. And in addition, after your dog got sick, and because Mr. Ferris and others had thrown their glass beer bottles in the yard, there was broken glass, and your dog also got glass in his paw, and you had a vet bill of almost $1,000 between the dog being inebriated and the paw that had to be cleaned up and stitched.
Almost perfectly correct.
It's close enough for your purposes, sir. Now, the first thing that you said that's irritating me is that your father spends a lot of money for school for you, and this drunk business always struck me as being stupid, even when my own children were involved in it when they were in college. I always resented paying for a 4-year party. But what really irritates me about you, Mr. Hopkins, is that I'm sure that your grandmother was somebody who saved her money and was very careful with her money.
Yes, Your Honor.
And when she left you that money, I'm sure what she wanted you to do was to be careful, cautious, and respectful of this little legacy that she left you. And you bought a house and proceeded to throw parties and probably trash it.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, how many college kids live in your house, sir?
2. Myself and one other.
And how many parties did he have last year, Mr. Ferris, at his house?
Countless.
Countless. Got it. So that's my problem with you.
We have very clean parties, Your Honor.
What?
We have very clean parties, Your Honor. We're responsible.
Mr. Hopkins, don't play with me.
I'm not playing with you.
Good. If you're not playing with me, then don't talk to me unless I'm talking to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now we'll get to you, Mr. Ferris, because you acknowledge in your answer, ply the dog with alcohol. You're going to tell me why, because Bert is really interested to know why you would give a dog alcohol.
Well, I didn't give it to him at first. I was drinking out of one of those Dixie cups and was sitting on the floor next to my chair. And the dog came up and started drinking it himself. So I figured, you know, this dog is clearly an alcoholic. So I fed him maybe 10 ounces of beer. Could not have gotten him drunk. It was
Listen to me,
very
Mr.
small
Ferris.
amount.
Put your hand down. I didn't ask you anything. Mr. Ferris, your defense, as far as I can understand it, sir, is that you gave the dog alcohol, but not more than, according to your answer, 12 ounces of alcohol, which could not have made this dog drunk. Being a veterinarian, I don't think you can make that judgment. But your defense really is that there were other people also giving the dog alcohol, so if the dog got sick, it was a cumulative effect, therefore you should not be responsible. That is your defense, is that right?
Not only that, but I don't see why I should be responsible, period, because, especially for the dog cutting his foot, I don't see how that has anything to do with me.
I'm talking to you about alcohol, sir.
All right.
And I have other important cases to do today, other than drunk cases, which I don't like to begin with. So I'm going to give you a quick analogy. Let's say on a Saturday night late, you're walking in the street and you're walking alone, and a group of 3 thugs come up and surround you and demand your wallet. The 3 of them then take out knives and start to stab you, and you are critically injured. The police catch one of them. The other 2 get away. Put your hand down. If the perpetrator said, I wasn't the only one to stab him, and therefore you can't charge me with stabbing him critically because there were 2 other people involved. Do you know what the justice system says to you?
What if the guy testified against the other 2 and they gave him a lesser...
Listen to me. Don't change my fact pattern, sir.
All right.
This is my party. This is my playpen. The fact that you were dumb enough to feed this dog alcohol, causing the dog to get sick, makes you totally and completely responsible. And if there were other morons like you at the party, sue them. You're free to do that. You're even free to bring those people before me, sir.
Okay.
I can deal with them. As far as you're concerned, you're the donkey, and the tail is on you. You fed him alcohol. You're responsible. Now, what were your medical bills?
$967.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $967. Do me a favor, no more drunk cases today.
25-year-old Aaron London is suing his former co-worker, Corey Bell, for defaming his character. Aaron claims Corey passed around a phony Craigslist ad.
Mr. London, did you and the defendant work in the same company?
Yes, at one point we did.
This is your complaint. You put an ad in Craigslist. I gather you went to school to become a massage therapist?
Yes.
And you put an ad on Craigslist for massages with your picture on it. Does it have your picture?
Yes.
Mr. Bell saw that ad on Craigslist. Is that right, sir?
I did.
And he thought it was really funny that you had posted that ad on Craigslist. So far, am I right?
Yes.
So he circulated it around the office. He sent it to a lot of other people. He thought it was funny, like, you know, like people send jokes on the computer, and he sent it to a whole lot of other people. So you're suing him for defamation because you were very embarrassed.
Yes.
That's what this is all about. Mr. London, can I see the ad, please?
Yeah.
Okay, so this says, hello ladies, imagine casting your eyes upon this gorgeous whatever. It's got pictures of you, right? And it says, massage for big, beautiful women. Reply to personals, it looks like a number at Craigslist.org. And when people reply to this personal, they get you. Is that right?
Well, they get transferred to an email, yeah.
But it's you.
No, not in this particular case. There's a little bit more to the story that hasn't been revealed yet.
Sir, all I want to know
Yes.
is, it comes back to you.
Yes.
Now, is this the same ad that you sent to other people?
Yes.
You didn't modify it in any way?
No, didn't modify
You didn't
it.
change it, you didn't add words,
No,
you didn't...
no, I didn't. I just sent the link.
You sent the link and you said, take a look at this.
That's it.
That's not a crime, Mr. London. That's not a crime. That's not a lawsuit.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it.
Well,
though.
give me 30 seconds, sir. That's what happened. You put this
Well-
ad that you didn't want to be circulated among your
No.
office mates. He circulated it among your office mates. If you didn't want it out there, you shouldn't have printed it.
Well, no, that actually isn't what happened. What happened is I work for the bank, and I also have a personal training and massage therapy business, like you said. And another kind of job side hustle that I do is I write personal ads for Craigslist. Also ads for businesses, whoever needs advertising.
Very nice.
who
I'm
lacks-
not an advertisement for you, sir. So you have a lot of businesses. You
And-
put this on Craigslist.
Yes, technically speaking.
That's what
But
we're here for.
that ad wasn't for me.
Who cares
I
who it
wrote
was
the ad
for?
for somebody else.
Who cares who it was for? Who cares? He doesn't know that. All he knows is this is the ad that he saw on Craigslist. He had every right to send it to whoever he wanted to send it to.
To my work, but well, he doesn't work in the workplace anymore.
I don't care. He could have sent it to the King of Siam. He could have sent it to me. He could have sent it to the President of the United States. He could have sent it to the Vice President of the United States or the Secretary of the Interior. It doesn't make any difference. It's out there in cyberspace, put on the internet by you, Mr. London. He could send it to whoever he wants. It's open. That's what it is. It's like sending an open letter.
To send it to my job for what? For
Who
laughs?
cares? If you don't want to be embarrassed, you don't put embarrassing things on the internet, Mr. London. If you don't want to be embarrassed, keep your private thoughts to yourself.
But the ad is not mine, is what I'm trying to tell you. Can I actually tell you?
Listen, Mr. London, I understand the nonsense what you wrote in your complaint. You said you were doing an ad for somebody else, and this was just a sample of what the ad would look like. But Mr. Bell doesn't know that because you posted this on Craigslist.
But how does he know I posted it?
It doesn't make any difference whether he knows you posted it or not, sir. It's here. It's out there in the world. Just like he sees it, anybody else can see it. He can send it to whomever he wants to send it. The truth of the matter is, you did post it on Craigslist. Did somebody tie you down and take these pictures?
No, those are sample pictures.
Those are pictures that
The
you...
pictures don't even match the ad, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh,
it's
yes,
not
they
even...
do. Oh, yeah, listen, Mr. London, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, sir. This may have aggravated you. It may have upset you. It's a very good lesson. If you want to think privately, you go, I want to take it all in, and this is what I want to do. I want to keep these thoughts to myself. If you want to give massages to big, beautiful women, and that's what you're thinking about, and I'm going to see it, but I'm not going to write it in a letter to my mother or my sister or my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I'm going to keep it to myself. Once you type it in the machine and you write send, it's over. It's out there. It's in Mexico and Burma and Jersey and Brooklyn. It's all over the place. And you can't complain about it if somebody says, this is really funny. I want to send it to everybody that I know who knows this jerk who posted this on Craigslist. So, Mr. London, grow up. You want to keep things to yourself? You want to talk into your pillow. Don't talk into your computer. Case is dismissed.
Ian Mooney is suing his ex-girlfriend, Erin Enslin, for money owed on a lease for a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Erin says the lease is Ian's responsibility.
Mr. Mooney, this is your former girlfriend. You leased a car together. You got another car. Miss Enslin said that she would take over the lease payments on the car. She did. You broke up. She took the car with her. She drove the car for a considerable period of time. The lease was about to be up. The payoff was too much. She said, you can have the car back. I don't want it. You were forced to pay the payout on the lease, which, according to your complaint, was about $5,000. Miss Enslin says it was your car. It's your problem. That's your defense.
Yes.
When was the car leased?
October 6th of 2001, and it was leased by myself and Erin.
Okay, and how long did you drive the car together?
Until, I believe, February of 2004. Erin had found employment, and basically we agreed that I would get another car in my name, and Erin would take over the Eclipse and make the payments.
And you did that?
Yes.
For how long?
The lease was up 2006, October. I called him a few times a couple months before saying that I couldn't afford the car. It was really breaking me. So obviously there was no way I was going to be able to pay it off, and he just refused to take it off of me.
Well, but you had an agreement with him, Miss Enslin.
Yeah, as long as I'm driving the car, I'll pay for it. There were times where I called him and said, I don't want it. I don't want to drive it. It was never discussed of bringing back the lease and me paying it off.
Well, what did you expect to happen?
I'm not even on the lease.
Miss Enslin.
I'm a co-signer for the loan.
Correct.
I'm not on the title of the car. It's not my car.
But you are co-signer on the loan, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, you had this car in total. How long, sir?
The full lease, 5 years between the two of us. Erin had said that she had no intention of keeping the car yet.
I believe she had intention of keeping the car as long as it was just like a lease. I'm speaking, Mr. Mooney. I believe that she had the intention of keeping the car and paying for it until it was no longer advantageous for her. You have a car now, Miss Enslin?
Do I have a car?
That's my question. Do you have a car now?
Yes, I have a car now.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Dodge Spirit.
What year?
94.
Where did you get it from?
My parents.
Your parents gave it to you as a gift?
Yes.
When did they give it to you as a gift?
October of this year, last year.
So at about the same time that you said, I can't afford these payments anymore?
At the same time the lease was up for his car.
The same time the lease was up on a car on which you were a co-signatory?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Can I please see the payout?
This didn't become an issue until there was damage to the car, and basically she'd gone over on the mileage.
How was the car damaged? Miss Enslin, you don't know. How was the car damaged?
There's a scrape on the side of the car.
How did it happen?
I hit something with it.
Why didn't you fix it?
Because it happened right before the lease was up. And his girlfriend at the time was actually looking into buying it, and her dad owned a garage, so there was a point where we thought that they were going to fix it and buy it and just take it off of whatever she paid for it.
Who do you live with?
My boyfriend.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an assistant.
Assistant what?
Assistant to a businessman.
What kind of business?
He owns a small production company.
You mean theatrical?
No, music.
And what does your boyfriend do, Miss Enslin?
He's a writer.
And what do your parents do?
My mom works in a factory. She's an accountant. And my dad fixes the roads and works for the township.
How old are you, Miss Enslin?
25.
You have to grow up and stop being a baby. If you have a responsibility, you're supposed to take care of the responsibility. You're not supposed to stick somebody else with your responsibilities. You were going to assume the responsibility on the car until you decided it was too expensive a proposition for you to take it over after the lease. So what? You relied on your parents to treat your car so you could get to and from work and not have to take care of this responsibility. You have to grow up, madam. Beauty fades, dumb is forever. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, it really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacancy.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
You were together?
yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex,
How many nights did you spend there?
maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck,
He was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it.
What?
In the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures of the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal. You see what your problem is, sir? First you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Don't you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. You asked her to go get jumper cables. She used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Rachel Rhodes is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the return of payments and repair costs for a vehicle he financed. Eric says the car was repossessed because Rachel missed payments.
Miss Rose, Mr. Nelson is a former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
And he financed a car. He was responsible for the payments on the car, but it was your car.
Correct.
The agreement was you were to make the payments on the car. When the car was paid off, it would be yours.
Correct.
Well, what happened is that you missed some payments on the car. Couple, 2, maybe 3. And the car was repossessed by the company. Is that right so far?
So far, I made a payment. I had placed it on the drop box.
I don't want to hear that you made the payment. You placed it on the drop box. They didn't cash the check, but then you missed 2 more payments. You missed payments, correct?
Yes.
And the car was repossessed. You called up the company, and the company said, well, if you make up all the payments that you missed, we'll give you the car back. You were prepared to make up the payments, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Nelson says, I'm not going to sign off on you getting the car back because I don't trust that you're going to continue to make the payments on the car. Let them take back the car. I'll make up the missed payments, and I just want this off my record so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're suing him for not making it easy for you to get the car back from the company. That's your lawsuit?
Yes.
Lawsuit, Ms. Rhodes.
Well, Your Honor, I have the paperwork pertaining to the money order that I had purchased and I had put in the drop box. After the 29th of December, I had called and checked the status of the money order. The money order had not been cashed.
Ms. Rhodes, you don't seem to get me. After you had this alleged mishap with a money order that you allegedly put in a drop box at the car company, which they didn't cash, you then missed 2 more payments.
Ma'am, the money order was for $250.
You then missed, according to your own statement, 2 more payments because you had trouble. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Well, that's what you wrote here. That's what you wrote here. How many more months of payments did you miss?
I only missed, to my knowledge, I missed 3 payments, which is a month worth of payments.
You missed 3 payments, and the car was repossessed.
That's correct, but as far as I know, I thought the payments were current.
Well, they weren't current, and you have no cause of action against Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson doesn't have to make it easy for you to get your car back from the company. That's not his responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it that the payments are made on time, and they are made to the right place, and to check and see if they were cashed, and to check and see that his credit is not at risk. That's your job. He was being very nice to you, but things transpired, which we'll get to in a moment, because you have a counterclaim that suggested to him that you were not particularly a trustworthy person. So he wasn't going to make it easy for you to get the car back, and he has no legal obligation to do that. And this is, of course, a court of law. And in a court of law, he is not under legal obligation to get you your car back from the finance company after you missed, I don't care if you missed 1 payment. According to you, you missed 3.
Well, can I say this?
Sure.
If I wasn't such a trustworthy person, I was able to pay the money to get the car back, but he didn't want to do that. But he told me that I can give him the $500 so that I can drive another car of his that he had parked.
Well, let me tell you why he thinks that you're not particularly a trustworthy person. He has a counterclaim for the missed payments that he had to make up.
Yes, ma'am.
But more importantly, his counterclaim asks for money for a paternity test because you had a child, she believed to be his child. He put his name on the child's birth certificate. He paid child support. I don't know whether he saw the child regularly.
He paid child support? No.
Did you pay any child support, sir, to her?
No, ma'am, I haven't paid to her because I have a lawyer at this time.
Were you living together when the child was born?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed her?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a paternity test?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
0% probability.
That's why he doesn't trust you.
Okay. Can I say this? Yes. He took a paternity test. I didn't know nothing about the paternity test. I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have, but I think you certainly have to go to court to find out. Have you been to court yet?
Yes, we've been to court.
And what happened when you went to court?
We went to court, and by him signing the paternity affidavit,
they stated that if it is his child or if it's not his child, that he needs to pay
child support. So the court where you are said Mr. Nelson is out of luck because he was told that the child was his by you, and because he signed the affidavit of paternity based on what you told him, he's going to pay child support whether the child is his or not. That's what you just told me.
I mean, that's what they said.
That's what you just told me that he was told.
Yes.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No.
That wouldn't make me believe that you are a particularly trustworthy person. This was not a court-ordered blood test, is that right?
No, ma'am.
You took the child yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you have to proceed through the courts. You hired an attorney. That's the first smart thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And do you have a court date?
Yes, I do.
When?
My lawyer has gotten us a court date to go back to court on May the 15th, so we could rescind the paternity affidavit that was already filed against
Fine.
me.
Well, at that point, Ms. Rhodes, the baby, as well as you, will be sent to a laboratory to take a paternity test. And at that time, with all three parties present, the court will at least be satisfied that the test is done properly. Ms. Rhodes at this point knows that she's on notice, that if there is a possibility that you are not the biological father of this child, that that is not a good thing. So I suggest you start searching your memory to figure out if there's any possibility that he's not the father.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. So you have no cause of action against him for the car. He doesn't have to assist you in getting the car back from the finance company. If you can convince them to give the car to you, that's super. And if you can't, you shouldn't have missed the payments which caused it to be repossessed. Now, the defendant's counterclaim is granted in the amount of $275, not for the paternity test, sir, because the paternity test was not an authorized test and it was not done by the courts. If you had been forced to pay for a paternity test through the courts, I might have entertained your application if it was done with all three parties present. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. $275 on the counterclaim. Your claim is dismissed, Miss Rose.
19-year-old Megan Fay is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old waiter Kevin Malaber, for loans to pay rent and to buy a new cell phone. Kevin claims Megan is upset that he's moved on.
Miss Fay, it is your claim that you made 2 small loans to the defendant while you were dating.
Yes.
Mr. Malaber says that he doesn't recall you making any loans to him, that he doesn't need your money, and he has no knowledge of any loans or financial gifts that you made to him. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. You both go to school?
Yes.
When did you make the first loan?
It was August 7th.
2006?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
He said that his dad couldn't pay for his rent because his dad was getting a new job. So he wanted me to lend him the money until his dad could pay me with the new job, and that was $420.
What was the money for?
The rent money.
Where did you get the money from?
My savings account.
You have proof of that for me?
Yeah, I have the statements right here.
Can I see it, please?
I had to take 2 up. Okay.
You had to take 2 out because?
I was doing the ATM, so I didn't think I would be able to take $420 out at once, so I split it up.
Okay. Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work were you doing?
I work at JCPenney's.
Full-time?
Part-time. I work between 15 and 30 hours while going to school.
I work full-time in a restaurant as a server.
What was the next loan that you made to him?
I've been bugging him about a cell phone, so he told me that he wanted to get one, so his dad said he couldn't do it, so I went with him to open it, and...
What do you mean you were bugging him about a cell phone?
He didn't have a cell phone, so I'd have to call his friends, and he said that he would get one, and his dad would pay for it, but his dad couldn't do it at that time, so I went with him and opened one for him.
Well, he was working. Why didn't he buy it?
He just started, and I made him get that job. He didn't want to work. And
how much was the cell phone?
It was $200.
Okay, and you don't remember any of this, sir?
No, my father would pay cash for my rent. My parents are divorced, and they both would pay half of the rent.
So you have no information whatsoever about this $420 amount of money?
No. And what was the date she said she took that money out?
August 7th.
Our rent was due the 20th of every month.
Yes.
So I don't know why there would be the 7th of the month that should be taking out money for my rent.
I don't know. That's
He
what she
was
says.
going to visit his friend where he was living, and he needed it that day because he wouldn't get to it before the due date. That's what he told me. I was all just going on what he was telling me, and I didn't want him to lose his apartment, so I gave him the money.
Okay. Now, Miss Fay, You claim that after he refused to pay you back, because you had some disagreement about his going out with somebody else, you contacted his father.
Yes.
And how did you contact him?
I had a cell phone because Kevin would use my phone to call his father and his mother. So I called his dad hoping he would be able to help me out.
And did you speak with him?
Yes.
And what did he say to you?
He said that he couldn't help me, that he talked to Kevin and Kevin wanted to do this on his own because he was 20, and that if nothing happens, he told me that I should do small claims court.
That's what his father told you?
Yes.
What's
He
your
didn't
father's
want to help me
telephone
out.
number, sir?
5763.
Is that his work number?
No, that's his cell phone.
Good. Did you ever meet him, by the way?
Yes. I would go to his house with Kevin. I would have to drive him because
Good.
he didn't have a car.
I'm going to give your dad a call.
Okay.
How's that?
That's fine.
Great. This is Judge Judy Sheindlin. How are you? Mr. I have a couple of questions for you. Do you have a moment for me, sir? Great, great. Do you remember sometime several months ago receiving a phone call from Miss Fay, your son's former girlfriend, Megan Fay? She discussed with you some money that she said your son had borrowed from her? Did she tell you how much he had borrowed? Did you agree to pay her that money? And did you speak to Kevin about it? And what happened? Okay. Did you tell Miss Fay that if he owed her money, that she should sue him? I absolutely agree with you, sir. You've met this young lady before, is that right? Ever had any difficulty with her before? Seemed like a nice young lady? Very good. Thanks very much. I appreciate your assistance. Bye-bye now.
He's sad.
There are always ways to figure out who's telling the truth, Mr. Malabar. If I can't get it from one source, I get it from another. Don't you feel foolish? 10 million people are going to know you're a liar.
I'm not lying here.
Yes, you are.
What did he say?
That's for me to know and for you to think about. But there's no question in my mind you're a liar. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $620. That's all. Thank you.
Marcus Mahaffey says his estranged mother-in-law, Patricia Strawn, owes for burning his work uniforms. Patricia claims Marcus is making up a story.
Mr. Mahaffey, the defendant is your mother-in-law. You are currently separated from your wife. I assume this is your wife.
Yes.
And you have one child together.
Yes, ma'am.
I gather from your complaint that you, your wife, and your baby were living with Miss Strawn in her home.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was some altercation involving you and your wife and your baby. You claimed that you left, and after you left, Miss Strawn burned your clothes.
Yes.
Miss Strawn says she did not burn your clothes, she put them out on the curb. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did your daughter and her husband live with you? From when to when?
They're going to be married 2 years in September. Pretty much the whole time they've been with us.
And when did you leave?
May 23rd on a Monday.
Tell me what happened.
I had my mother pick me up from work.
Did she always pick you up from work?
No, ma'am.
Why did she pick you up on the 23rd of May?
I had no ride at the time.
Okay, she picked you up from work and dropped you off at your house?
My house was at her house at the time. I got there and I asked my mother if she wanted to see our son, Ethan, and I told her to wait 1 minute. I went up to the front porch after arriving at the house.
Why did you tell her to wait? Don't they get along?
To some extent. There's been some problems, arguments.
There'd be no reason why she couldn't have came in.
Okay, go ahead.
I went up to the front porch, and what I saw was Ashley and a couple of her friends smoking marijuana on the front porch, and my son was running around in the middle of them.
Where was your mother-in-law?
She was at work at the time.
Is this the first time that you saw your wife smoking marijuana in front of your son?
No, ma'am.
Was this a frequent occurrance?
Yes.
My daughter did not smoke pot.
Don't shout out again. I let you do it once.
Okay.
But don't. Go ahead. Put your hand down.
After seeing what I saw, I had asked for Ashley to ask all her friends to leave at the time.
Well, you probably got angry. If what you say is true, you probably didn't just ask, you probably got angry and you were shouting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were shouting, and what did you do?
I told her I was going to my mother's house to stay for a little while, so I had picked my son up, and I did not want him to be around.
You picked him up and you walked outside with him?
Yes.
And you went to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happened next?
I asked my mother if we could come over there and stay for a day or two. She said that's fine. We had left and went to the house, and when we arrived at my mother's house, Ashley had called me and told me to give her back her son. And I said, not with you smoking marijuana around him. Until you can stop, then you can call me.
All right. Ms. McCafferty, I'd like you to stand up, please. You remember going over to the Strawn house on the 23rd of May?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went over there, when your son came back, he came back with your grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what he said to you when he came back?
He simply stated that they were up there smoking marijuana and he didn't want his son around it. And
Did he use the word marijuana?
No, ma'am. Pot.
Okay.
And asked me if he could come over to the house and stay and bring the baby, which at that point I told him yes.
Okay. Keep going, Mr. McCaffrey.
After we arrived at the house, Ashley had called me, and she told me to bring back the baby. And I said, no, not with you smoking. And after that, she had hung up on me. And I had called Patty at work, and I had told her what she was doing, because before I had called her, Ashley had already called her at work and said that I had kidnapped our son.
Well, that's not possible.
And after that, I talked to her for about 20 minutes or so, and she said, why are you doing this? Ashley does not smoke. She hung up.
Ms. Strawn, are you thoroughly convinced that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana?
Well, actually...
Just answer my question. Thoroughly convinced?
Yes.
All right. There's a very simple way to find that out, Ms. Strawn.
She's been tested. They turned her into defects.
Has she done a hair follicle test or just a urine test?
The urine test. She passed 5.
Just a second. Has she done a hair follicle test?
Nobody suggested it.
Very easy. We can take care of that.
Well, you'll have to do it to him, too, because he's bad as she is.
No, just a second. I'm not interested in him right now. I'm interested in your daughter. Urine test is nothing. But a hair follicle test will demonstrate when you smoked, how much you smoked, and it stays in the hair follicle for up to a year. So you understand that if I order a hair follicle test, if your daughter consents, the results of that test can be sent to any domestic relations court when there is an issue of custody and or visitation. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Now go and discuss with your daughter whether she's prepared for us to take a sample of her hair and send it to our laboratory. Go ahead.
Like
go
I
ask
said,
her.
ma'am, if you
go,
do it to him, too.
No, just, he's not an issue.
Really?
Yeah. Fine, we'll do that. At the conclusion of the hearing, we'll do that.
Well, what does that have to do with what the case is about, ma'am?
Well, it has a great deal to do with the case, madam, because what you're saying is that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana, therefore the story that he just told me about going up to the porch and seeing her is a lie. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying, well, there's a very easy way to figure that out. It has nothing to do with whether he smokes marijuana or not. It's whether your daughter did, and you are committed to the fact that she does not.
Right.
You want to smoke dope, that's your business, but don't smoke dope in front of your child.
I don't, ma'am.
Or be around friends who do.
We weren't smoking pot, ma'am.
What were you doing?
Sitting there talking, and he took the baby without a car seat and left. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, told me to come. He smokes crack, too.
Just a second. Smokes marijuana? And you never... Stand up. Stand up. And what you're telling me is you never did it with him?
Yes, ma'am, I will admit to that.
All right. That's all I'm asking you, my dear. So your mother is mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She's been. That's all I wanted to know. That's it. That's the issue. Now you can sit down. You got it? Your daughter does smoke marijuana. She didn't tell you, but she smoked it with her husband. She says he smokes other things, too. I didn't ask her about the other things, but she clearly smokes marijuana. Now we understand each other, Miss Strawn? Oh. Now, let's get back to your burned clothing. Go, and get there fast, because I have other things to do today.
We arrived at the house after her calling me, and I talked to Patty.
So you brought the baby back. Keep going.
And that night, when I was talking to Ashley, I heard Patty in the background asking for marshmallows. I asked why they want marshmallows. Did they have a fire going? Ashley said, yes, they're burning your clothes. They want to roast marshmallows over your clothes. And I did not believe her. So the next day, on the 24th, I went over there to see for myself. Patty was not there. Ashley refused to show me any clothes. I just happened to walk down the driveway and I smelled something burnt, a distinctive smell.
Is that burnt clothes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You want to show me one piece of the burnt clothing? I don't have to see the whole thing.
Your Honor, who's to say that he didn't burn his own clothes?
Me.
After everything he's done to me.
Me, I'm to say.
Okay.
I'm to say. Because I read your answer. Shh. Got it. Okay, you can put it away. Okay. Ms. Strawn says that you took your clothes and she put them out by the curb.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I did.
You can't do that.
Why?
Because he's a resident of your home, and you have an obligation to hold on to his property until he comes to get it, unless he, put your hand down, unless he abandons it. You have no right to take his clothes and put them on the curb, because if you took them and put them on the curb and burned them, you would be responsible. You have no right to do that.
But he has never so much as paid a cent living
I
in
don't
my house.
care. You allowed him to live in your home for 2 years. I'm speaking to you. He lived in your home for 2 years. Don't get in the middle. You're really dumb if you get in the middle, especially if you have 2 children who are babies themselves, and I probably believe you that both of them smoke pot and whatever else. So it's very possible that you 2 mothers-in-law and grandmothers are going to have to be responsible for this baby at some point, because certainly they're not responsible. And I would suggest that you try to maintain reasonable relations. He's allowed to take his child.
No, he's not. There's a TPO
No,
against him.
listen to me. At the time he took his child, there was no custody order. And in this country, the United States of America, one parent does not have any priority over custody over another when the 2 people are married.
But it didn't have anything to do with him pulling up with pot. He wanted the baby, had his mom waiting in the driveway. That's what he did.
Miss Strawn, you weren't there. And the fact that you are so committed to the baloney story that you have concocted in your head, because I believe her when she says that when he came back with the baby and said she's smoking pot on the driveway. I believe he said it. You don't believe it?
I don't, ma'am.
That's your problem. In any event, you have to pay for his clothes. How much were the clothes worth?
The total for the uniforms was $508.
What kind of uniform?
My work uniforms.
What kind of work?
The job he doesn't have anymore.
Mechanic.
You really...
He just got out of jail, for God's sakes.
You are really thick. You're really thick. You're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
I'm paying attention.
No, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you're supposed to stay out of it. This genius picked this genius. Yeah. The only problem... Well, this is your genius, Miss Strawn. If he's no bargain, that's her problem. This genius belongs to you. She made a baby with him. He's not going to be out of your life. And that doesn't give you the right to vandalize his property. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $508. That's all.
Vicky Madure claims former friend Becky Seifert ruined her credit by not paying on credit cards she helped her get.
Ms. Madure, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Who had terrible credit. And it is your claim that you were trying to be nice to her and have a credit card. If you would take it out, make her co-holder of one of the cards. You did that for her, and the understanding was the bills would go to her and she would take care of the bills. And it is your claim that subsequent to that, she wanted to buy a motorcycle. And again, you agreed to be a friend, and you co-signed the loan for the motorcycle with the understanding that she would make the payments promptly, which she failed to do. You subsequently found out that not only had she taken out the one credit card, but because she had all of your information, she took out a series of credit cards and built up a balance of thousands of dollars. She was also behind on the payments. She was behind on the payments on the bike as well. As a result of that, your credit, which had been pristine, took a dive. So you're suing for 2 things. You're suing for the return of the motorcycle to you, or its value, so that you can sell it and get out from under the payments. And second, you want damages for her ruining your credit. Ms. Seifert says that she kept her end of the bargain. She has paid on the motorcycle, although she acknowledges she doesn't pay in a prompt manner. She pays when they threaten her. That's not what she says, but I gather that's the case, that when they threaten to either sue her or repossess the motorcycle, she makes a payment. That still doesn't positively impact on your credit. And she says that she kept her end of the bargain by making the payments on the credit card. She also says that you opened up all these credit cards for her, not just the one that you say, but all of the others. When did you open up this credit card with her as a co-card holder?
Probably around June of '05, and there was only one card, and if there was all these credit cards...
No, just don't, you don't have to answer for her.
Okay.
You opened up one
June
credit...
of '05.
And with what financial institution?
MBNA, MasterCard, and both our names are on it.
And as far as you know, that is the only card that you authorized her to get?
Yes.
With your information?
Yes.
How many cards did she get using your information?
4 or 5, counting the second MBNA she took out, that she succeeded. I have documentation.
I'd like to see it, please.
Your Honor, there was only one MBNA card. There wasn't 2.
I have how many?
There was 2 Chase. There was 1 MBNA.
No.
Ms. Seifert, how many cards did the plaintiff agree to take out in your name?
Ma'am, I went to creditcards.com with her information because...
Listen.
We never determined a number. The cards that I had, that I used, several of them were mailed to her home, to her address. I didn't go to her house and steal those cards.
Ms. Seifert, you don't honestly expect, coming here today, that you're going to get over on me,
No,
right?
I don't. I'm
Good.
just telling you.
So then let me ask the questions and don't skirt around the answers, because I'll take you and I shake you, and then I get the answer.
Okay.
You came to the plaintiff and asked her if she could take out a credit card and put you as a co-holder on a credit card so that you would have a credit card to start to build up your credit. That's what you asked her, I assume. Is that right?
She offered.
Well, how would she know that you needed it, madam, unless she knew that you didn't have a credit card?
Because we were going on vacation together, and we were talking about finances for vacation and the things our kids could and couldn't do.
And?
And I explained to her that I did not have a credit card with much credit on it.
That's okay, good. So she agreed to get 1 credit card. Now, after she got the 1 credit card in June of 2005, when did you apply for the other credit cards?
I did it all at the same time on creditcards.com when I got the 1 credit card.
Just a second. I told you, don't play with me.
I'm
smarter than you are. You just said to me, I got the other credit cards on creditcard.com after I got the 1 credit card.
That's not what I said.
That's exactly what you just said. I have a tape.
The 1 time on creditcards.com, and several cards were mailed to her house, and she knows that.
Don't tell me what she knows. Why did you take advantage of a situation where she said she would get you a credit
It was very bad
card?
judgment on my part.
Now, credit cards, did you use them to make purchases?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay all the credit cards on time?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Then you ruined her credit.
Then I signed to be responsible for all of them, all the papers she asked me to, and it was taken off of her credit.
Listen to me. You show me where, once you signed a piece of paper to be responsible, because so far you're irresponsible, it impacted positively on her credit. Show me.
I don't know where it acted positively, but she was even told it was taken off her credit after the affidavits were signed, and I also have 2 receipts for $6,500 we've paid her.
Just a sec. For?
Towards the credit cards.
Well,
and
you didn't pay it to her, you paid it to the credit card for things that you bought.
No, we gave it directly to her to take care of it.
Doesn't make any difference, madam. Don't you get it? Once you become a deadbeat in the credit card world, you don't automatically become not a deadbeat just because you pay the credit card. You remain a deadbeat.
But they said that because they called it fraudulent, it would come off of her report.
So you acknowledge that you fraudulently
No,
applied?
she made me sign those papers because if I didn't, because I'm on probation, she was going to call my probation officer, which she threatens to do all the time.
Sounds like a great idea to me. Now, let's get to the motorcycle. She also co-signed a loan for you for a motorcycle. Is there any reason why you did that, madam?
I was trying to be good-hearted, which I will never do again.
You have children?
Yes, I'll never even co-sign for my children. I've learned a lesson the worst way.
Okay. Now, do you pay for the motorcycle on time?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Which means that you have destroyed her credit.
Yes, ma'am, I probably have with the motorcycle.
Good. Now I'd like to see what papers you have.
They asked me to bring, I brought a picture of the motorcycle. She wants the motorcycle back, but the title is solely in my name. So if she wants the bike back, she's going to have to get my name off the title that she lets ride that bike, and she's not capable of riding it herself.
Just a second.
And then I have a statement now
that
shows that all my payments are current.
You make your payments late.
Well, I mean, it shows that I'm current right now.
I don't care whether you're current right now. You make your payments late. Can I see the title to the motorcycle, please? When did you co-sign on the motorcycle?
October 05.
How much have you paid on the motorcycle?
I've made all the payments except the one she made, and I
How
paid
much
her back
do you
for them.
pay?
$250 a month, ma'am.
How much is the loan?
She owes, right now, there's still almost $12,000 owed. Right here it is. $11,818.42 owed.
Who are you?
Becky's boyfriend.
Stand up. What do you do for a living?
Run a rubber mill.
You earn a living?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you refinance this motorcycle?
I already have one in my name.
So what?
I don't know, ma'am.
What?
This was between them.
Well, I understand that, but you live with her. You sleep with her.
Yes.
So why should she be on the hook for her bad credit?
She was having trouble with her credit way before us.
I'm asking you a question. I just said to you, she sleeps with you, you live with her. Why don't you, the two of you, refinance this motorcycle and get it out of her name?
I've got too much in my name right now with my house, my cars, and my motorcycles, so...
Your motorcycles?
I have 2 motorcycles, yes.
Well, why don't you sell one?
Because I like them.
Yeah, but you have a problem. You live in a home with this lady, and she's got a problem. So why don't you help her fix it?
Well, I did. I took out a 401k loan and paid off the credit cards that she had with her to help her out. I mean...
What does she do?
Huh?
What do you mean, huh? What does she do?
What does she do?
Yeah, what does she do?
As far as?
As far as a livelihood.
She works in a doctor's office.
She make a living?
Yes.
So why doesn't she refinance it?
Your Honor, I don't know.
Why don't you refinance it?
I can't get it just in my name, Your Honor.
Well, maybe you can get it in his name. He owns his own home.
Well, we haven't tried that, but the last time he tried to get a loan, they said he had too much credit out.
Then why don't you sell the motorcycle?
I just haven't found anybody that'll buy it. It's not worth what we owe on it.
Now, she says she wanted to sell it. Her problem was she couldn't get what was owed on it. So you would have no problem signing it over to her, right?
As long as it's out of my name, I have no problem, and I've told her that
Fine,
before.
absolutely perfect. Have her sign this over to her,
That's
please.
a memorandum title, ma'am.
So?
But that is not the actual title.
So, I understand
Okay,
that. The
that's what I'm
actual
asking.
title has a lien on it. She can do it. As a matter of fact, we'll prepare that order that you'll sign.
That's fine.
Good. Now we know that this is now your motorcycle. We will prepare that order. Now you're suing her for $3,000 because in addition to the return of the value of the motorcycle, you want damages for ruining your credit, right?
Yes.
And hopefully the $3,000 that you're suing for that will help compensate you for the loss that you're going to suffer on the motorcycle. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good. Judging for the plaintiff, in the addition to the order that this will now be in your name, subject to the lien, judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all. Thank you.
Bail bondsman Aaron McAllister says former client Elena Zadevich owes for unpaid bail money.
What were you arrested for, Ms. Zadevich?
I was arrested on false charges of domestic violence that my ex filed against me.
I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That you would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Madam,
listen to me very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You chose.
had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no. Not
Yes,
I was forced to
I did sign
sign
that
it.
agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McAllister.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, you know, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, you know, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car,
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay me.
Just a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
because he's not telling you the whole truth. What happened, he bails me out.
Are you, just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What did I lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I lie?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. It's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company, doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's not. No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no contract.
I said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
So
he
no,
We
madam.
can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you are,
a
because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you signed this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said?
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off, right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's why I asked you the question before. It's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
19-year-old Lila Zamani is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Logan Winborn, for an unpaid loan for bail and for urinating on her laptop while sleepwalking.
Ms. Zamani, the defendant was your boyfriend. It is your claim that he owes you money for two things. First, that he damaged your laptop computer, and second, that you bailed him out of jail and he did not return the bail money to you, as agreed. Mr. Winborn says that he never agreed to return the bail money to you and that he did not damage the computer, right? No. You do understand, Mr. Winborn, you're going to be at least partially sorry that you came here today.
Right.
You do understand that.
Yeah, I understand that.
I just like everybody to be prepared. You know, I don't like to ambush you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lila Zamani says ex-boyfriend Logan Winborn owes for a loan for bail money and the cost to replace a laptop computer.
Let's deal with the easy things first, please. When did she bail you out of jail and for what?
It was probably around 7 months ago.
When?
August 31st.
Were you living together at the time?
No, we weren't.
For?
Disorderly conduct. We got in an argument, and I went down to...
The two of you got into an argument?
The neighbors called the police. The police showed up. I was kind of throwing a fit in the street, and they took me to jail.
What do you mean you were throwing a fit in the street?
I was just kind of... I was stopping traffic and stuff.
Were you on drugs?
I was, yeah, I was drinking, so...
Is this the first time you were arrested?
No, I've been arrested a few times before.
For what?
For disorderly conduct, mostly.
You drink or you use drugs?
I used drugs and I did drink.
Okay. Did you call Miss Zamani from jail?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked if she could bail me out.
And she did?
Mm-hmm.
And how much did it cost you?
$2,932.
Did you go to court on the date that you were supposed to, Mr.
Yes, I did.
Winborn?
Yeah.
And was that case resolved?
Yes, it was. All the charges were dropped.
Did you get your bail back?
Yes, I did. At that time...
Just a second. I'll ask questions. Don't editorialize.
Sure.
Did you get it back in a check?
Yeah, I got it back in a check.
What did you do with it?
I got my own place to stay.
You weren't together to begin with at the time you called her for the bail.
At that time, we were planning on moving in with each other.
You weren't together with her at the time, according to you.
Well, this is what kind of broke us up, is the money is what the arguments were beginning to be about. So we weren't together at the time that I got the money back.
So why didn't you give her the money? It wasn't your money, it was hers.
Because I was planning on moving in, and that didn't happen because
Do you understand why you're going to get a little bit humiliated here today, sir?
Yeah.
You understand? Because you're going to give me an answer and you're going to sound like a moron. A big-time moron.
Do you want me to continue with the story?
No.
No? Okay.
So I am to understand that she paid your bail, almost $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
You resolved your case, you got a check for the bail, and you didn't give her the money.
No, I didn't.
Well, I'm waiting for an excuse that Bird can understand.
Well, the check did come back in my name, although that's not an excuse. But I need a place to live. I'd rather be in jail than to be
Go to a shelter.
homeless. You know what I mean?
Go to a shelter.
Shelter.
Yeah, go to a shelter. How old are you?
21.
21. You have parents?
Yeah, they live down Southern California. So.
I don't care where they live. You have parents.
Mm-hmm.
Do they hate you?
Not extremely.
Not extremely. That's an answer. Not extremely. Do you have siblings?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
32 and 23.
Do they hate you?
No, they don't.
So you have options. Your options aren't to steal from Miss Zamani. That's not an option. The money was hers. She laid it out. She was to get it back. So far we have $2,932. Now you can tell me about this nonsense about the computer.
Well, I woke up one morning.
What morning?
A week before May 14th, and the computer was drenched in a liquid, and Logan had spent the night, and I had to let it air dry for a few days, and I took it to a computer shop, and they said it would cost more to fix the computer than to buy a new one.
Well, so how do you know he did it?
He has a history of watering things in his sleep.
What do you mean watering things? You mean he urinates on things?
Yeah, okay.
Miss Zamani, listen to me. If this happened in May and you were still looking at him in August, that's your problem. I mean, if you say that he has a history because he uses drugs, abuses alcohol, so he doesn't know what he's doing, and he waters the world while he's under the influence, you stayed with him. It's almost like assumption of risk. But he owes you for bail. That he owes you for. Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Winborn?
I've only really watered tomato plants and trees.
Mr. Winborn, I don't find you amusing. I think that there's a reason your parents don't like you. I have enough children.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough children. I always love them. Sometimes I like them more than other times, right? I don't like you at all. So I'm really quite sympathetic with your parents because they probably invested a great deal of time and effort in you. And look what they got. Judgment for the plaintiff, and that's all. Out!
Brandon Book says his mother, Mary Nixon, owes for a title loan on a car and for a loan to pay court fines.
Mr. Book, the defendant is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint alleges that she owes you some money.
Yes, ma'am.
One from a loan, the other from another loan that you took out against your car in order to buy your mother a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Car that she ultimately surrendered, owing money on it, and you're paying substantial amounts of money for the time that she, in fact, had the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother says that while she acknowledges that you did some nice things for her, she said that all of that were gifts that you made to her, and she is counterclaiming. She alleges that you gave away some property that belonged to her deceased husband, who was not your father. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And also a wedding ring that she wants back. Okay, so tell me about the first loan, sir.
The first loan was for down payment for her car. She came to me on April 27th of 07, and she asked me if she could go get a car. I took her to a local dealership where her credit qualified her for a car. However, she didn't make enough money to support a car, so they asked me if I would sign for it. The agreement was that she made the payments, and I agreed to it, and so I co-signed for her. However, they needed a down payment, so they asked me if my truck was paid for, and I said yes, it was. So we went to a local financial institution, and they took out the title loan for $2,500. Plus
a title loan?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that your truck was now encumbered?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And they asked for an additional $200 deposit for the insurance. So while we were doing the agreement, we were signing all the paperwork. My mother looked at me and she asked me if this was okay. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I will pay you back as soon as I get my VA benefits. I said, yes, ma'am, that's not a problem.
What VA benefits?
When her husband passed away, we went to the local Veterans Affairs office in Lake Charles, and they said that she qualified for some death benefits. So they put all the paperwork in, and they said that she was going to be awarded it.
Did they say how much she would be
No,
getting?
ma'am, they didn't say how much. They gave us like a monthly statement of what she would get. If she got the full amount, $7 a month. If she got the other one, it was like $611 a month.
And how much were the car payments a month?
The car payments were $371.
Okay. So you took out this title insurance, and what happened?
What happened is 2 weeks after she got the car, she lost her job. So I had to figure out some way of having to pay it, both my loan, her loan, and supporting everybody, because her and my sister were living in the house along with my wife and my child.
So you have a wife?
Yes, ma'am.
Child, your mother, and sister were living with you?
And at one time we had my other sister and her 2 kids living with us as well.
And who was supporting them?
I was.
It's outrageous.
It's family.
Good boy. What are you saying no for?
Because it's lies.
Well, come up here and tell me what's the lie about it. First, tell me your first name.
My first name is Mary. My last name is Book.
Very good. Uncross your arms. Is it a lie that you lived with your brother?
No, that's not a lie.
Is it a lie that he helped support you?
No, that's not a lie either.
Well, that's what he said.
No, he said that he co-signed for the car, which is a lie.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the car. You said that's a lie. She lived with him. You lived with him. Your other sister, for a period of time, lived with him, and her 2 children. And he was supporting you, because I assume you weren't working. Is that right?
That's right.
Why weren't you working?
Because I had no way to work. Because he got my car, and so my mom took sell my car to buy him the
That's
house.
not true, Your Honor.
I have the check.
Just a second.
They sold my car for $6,000, and that got the down payment to the trailer that he now lives in.
Okay, and when was that?
October of last year.
How long did you live in the trailer where he and his wife and child were living?
They got the trailer in October.
Right.
I moved out in December with my sister.
So you lived there 3 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Then she came back.
Did you come back?
I moved in to an apartment.
Did you come back?
Later.
When?
March or June.
Was it March or June? Those are very different months.
April, March, somewhere in between there.
And how long did you stay? Until when?
I moved out in March again, and I didn't come back until May. And then I moved in back in May, and then we moved out for good in June.
So you lived there about 6 months altogether. And how long did your mother live there?
The whole time. From
Well, no.
October to June.
Oh, then of course she gave him money for the trailer. Did you give him any other money when you lived there?
I gave him some money after the check came in. I paid 2 house notes. I paid a light bill.
So you had a house note?
Yes, ma'am.
In addition to the deposit on the trailer?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course. So, other than that, she gave him money because she had you, she had your other sister, she had herself, her sister's 2 children. They lived with him. He's paying a house note, and she gave him a $6,000 deposit on the trailer. Now you can sit down. That's what you're supposed to do. If you and your whole family want to move in with your son and you gave him a $6,000 deposit on a trailer and he's making the house payments on it for you and your family to live in, that's what you're supposed to do.
But, Your Honor, I moved my mobile home I was living in for 14 years off of my property for him to put his mobile home there.
So what?
He told me he will never, ever say anything about me not working. He did not mind me living there because I did this for him.
And I'm telling you, he's not supposed to say that to you. You moved your whole family into the trailer that he was making the payments on. You lived there from October until June. She lived there for 6 months. Your other daughter and her 2 children lived there for 6 months. Who do you expect to pay for that? Every adult pays rent. You're a grown-up. So if you gave him $6,000 at the beginning of your stay, instead of making periodic payments, then what difference does it make? Look at it that way. But don't make yourself a victim. You're not a victim. Children don't support their 46-year-old parents. Parents support their children. How much money did it cost you when your mother surrendered this truck?
It was the car that she had to surrender, Your Honor. It didn't cost me anything. I tried to tell her about it. I went to her work with this document right here showing that if she surrenders the car, that they would give us a zero deficiency on the auto loan. So I approached her at work with this, and when I approached her at work, she got really defensive about it. And when I told her, I said, look, all you got to do is just surrender the car. They'll give you a zero deficiency. We don't owe anything, but they don't owe us. We don't owe them. It's like it never happened. She refused. She immediately responded back saying that's it. You have 10 days to get that trailer off my land, and I'm cutting your lights off.
So tell me what happened with the car. Did you surrender the car?
Yes, I did.
When?
The next Wednesday.
So what money are you out, Mr. Book?
The title loan on my vehicle. Well, in order to get her car, we had to put a down payment. That's where the title loan on my vehicle came on for her car.
I see. And the title loan was for how much?
$2,500.
So that you're not out any money for the loan, but you are out money for the title loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you actually took that money and put it down as a down payment. That's why you had no money that was owing if she turned the car in.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand. All right, now I'm ready to hear you, Miss Nixon. He's out $2,500 because you couldn't make the payments on the car.
Okay, whenever I got the car, he came, woke me up one morning and said, Mama, you want a car? And I'm like, well, I would like one, but I can wait for my money to come in. Because I didn't want a car note, really, because I really didn't make enough for a car note and insurance and everything else. So I said, I'll wait. And he goes, well, Mom, I got him on the phone. He wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Brandon, I don't want a car right now.
That's not true.
It would be nice to have a car.
Just a second. You know what happens, unfortunately, Miss Nixon, to some people when they're telling a lie? They get blotches on their chest.
I know, I just get nervous.
No. A man that's supporting a wife and child and supporting a sister and another sister and 2 children and a mother who I'm sure doesn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, doesn't come in and twist his mother's arm to get a car. Baloney. You're not supposed to put your children in debt because you don't work. That's not what mothers are supposed to do.
I did not want the car. I told him I would wait.
Then you shouldn't have taken it. You're 46 years old.
He went to the car dealership
without
and said,
you.
I'm going to...
Just a second. Without you?
He went with me.
Did he drag you there? Miss Nixon, did he drag you there?
No, he said he wanted to go pick out him something.
Miss Nixon, you are so full of baloney. You owe him $2,400 first for that. What else does she owe you for, sir?
Whenever she was in Washington State, she was supposed to be gone for only a week and a half. She had 2 jobs, working at Walmart and working at Sears. She went to Washington on a one-way ticket to see my friend, and she was gone.
What was she doing seeing your friend?
They were talking on MySpace kind of thing, and...
So a boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
She was grieving and went to see a boyfriend. How long was she gone?
She was gone for 3 months.
3 months? This was, I assume, before she got the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And I was contacted by a Sergeant Mouton of the Calgary Parish Sheriff's Department looking for her. I was then like, what does she do now? So I call her, tell her what's going on. Apparently she had some checks that she had written back $6.97 for very little, like $25, $30, however they just caught up with her. And they were looking for her to satisfy those checks. Then when she came back, I still supported her, tried to get her through the hard times. She just didn't take the hint, and I was getting really tired of it.
How much money did it take to clear the checks?
$150.
Did you tell your mother about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Who cleared the checks, you or your mother?
I did.
Where was she when you cleared the checks?
Being arrested at the time.
Is that right?
Well, not exactly. Like, I'm,
She's not a horrible mother.
No.
Did he pay $150 to
from selling the cabinets that he sold out of my house? I was upset at him. He gave away everything.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Everything in my house. He gave away my cabinets.
Just a second. Give me the month and year he gave away.
February.
February of what year?
Of this year.
And when did you move out of the trailer?
I moved out in July.
You couldn't have been that upset.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not going to disown my child. I'm not going to do that to him.
You couldn't have been that upset. If he gave away the stuff in February, you didn't sue him. March, you didn't sue him. April, you didn't sue him. May, you didn't sue him. June, you didn't sue him. July, you didn't sue him. August, you didn't sue him. September, you didn't sue him. So if he gave away your stuff, he gave away your stuff. What's next?
The ring.
Whose ring is it?
Mine.
It's actually ours.
No, it's mine.
Well, how did his wife end up with the ring?
I told her and him that I would let them use my ring as a token of because it was special to me.
Just a minute, you told them that you would let them use their ring?
Until he could buy one for her. And if they broke up and she moved out, that I was to get the ring. Yes, ma'am, I'm honored.
Fine. Well, first of all, A, I don't believe you, because I think that that's a lot of baloney that you just told me. But B, even if what you told me was true, let's see what you just said. You said you are letting them use the ring until he can buy her a new one, which he can't. Or until they break up, which they have not. Or if she moves out, which she has not.
She did in between this time.
Oh, tell me when.
She moved out.
Just tell me when.
She moved out during the summertime.
Did you sue her then?
No, I didn't.
Goodbye, Miss Nixon. You got a problem. You owe your son $2,550. Judgment for the plaintiff. Your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Jenny Rose says ex-roommate Sheena Mashoud owes for the return of rent and a security deposit. Jenny also claims Sheena slandered her via the internet.
Miss Rose, you rented a room from the defendant, and according to your complaint, you were forced to move out early.
Yes.
You want prorated rent.
Yes.
You certainly want your security deposit back. And you want compensation for what you say were very nasty things that the defendant posted about you on the internet.
That's correct.
The defendant says that you chose to move out. You don't get compensated for choosing to leave before the end of the 30 days. That your cat did some damage to the rug, so you don't get your security back. And she acknowledges she wrote nasty things about you on the internet, but she said everything she wrote about you was the truth, and the truth is a perfect defense.
True.
When did you move into this room, Ms. Rose?
On May 1st. On April 22nd, I answered an ad.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that I was going to be a roommate, that it was $400 for the rent, that she had 3 cats, and 1 more would be great. And
no, just a second. That's not what the ad said.
Yes, it did. It said she had 3 cats and 1 more would be great.
Oh, that's what the ad said?
Yes.
It must be a very long ad. Where was it?
Craigslist.com.
.org. .org. Correction. Tell me what happened when you went and looked in the house.
It was 11 o'clock at night. She said that it was dirty, but she would clean it, and that the hot water in the sink was broken, the pipe, but she would fix it before I moved in, and the toilet that I was renting out with the bathroom was broken as well, but that would be fixed as well.
How many rooms did you look at?
3 different rooms, and this is the one that I chose.
This is the one that had a broken sink, a broken toilet, and was filthy. Is the one that you chose, Miss Rose?
Actually, it was the rent. It was cheaper than normal. Others were asking for $650, so I figured I was only going to be here till the summer. It should not be an issue.
Was the toilet fixed?
No, the toilet was never fixed, and neither was the hot water, which I had to eat out because I couldn't wash dishes. There were maggots in the sink. There were roaches, flies.
Who else lived in the house?
It was supposed to be just myself and Sheena, and she brought her crackhead mother in, who has no teeth and has tattoos everywhere, who she failed to mention was an ex-convict who had been in jail for 12 years for a violent crime. Not only that, but...
Just a second. When you moved in May 1st, was her mother there?
No, her mother was not there.
When did her mother move in?
Her mother started coming by in the middle of May and started hanging out, bringing her other crackhead friends who had no teeth.
I'm a dentist's daughter. Let's not talk about the teeth. Let's talk about the drugs. Okay. What makes you think that she was using crack?
Because I came home the night before I moved out, and her friend were smoking crack in the living room.
That would give me a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your mother incarcerated for, Miss Mashoud?
I believe it was theft, and she violated her parole several times.
She violated her parole because of her drug use?
No, it had to do with the fact that she wasn't seeing her probation officer like she was supposed to when she was released early.
Listen, if you're released early and you want to stay out of jail, unless you're involved with drugs, you usually see your probation officer.
Well, actually, the problem was that she moved back to Colorado without asking her probation officer, and she stayed out there for 3 years.
Well, that would be a problem.
Yes, obviously, as the rule was that she was supposed to keep in contact.
How long was she incarcerated?
I'm not sure. I never lived with my mom as a child, so.
When was she released from prison?
At least 5 years ago.
How come she started to come to your house?
Because I previously, before she had ever moved in, had paid my mom to come to my house to clean my apartment because I work 18-hour days. I have two different jobs. I work a bar job at night, and during the day I'm a special effects makeup artist. I work very hard, and I don't have time to spend, even if it is 4 hours that I get to sleep, to spend cleaning up my apartment.
You mean there's nobody else that could clean your apartment other than your mother?
Well, I don't trust anybody else to come into my apartment because I have many things that are worth a lot of money.
So what you're telling me is you trust your mother?
Yes, I do.
The mother who she says, and I believe her,
yes,
invited somebody into your home and they were smoking dope in your house.
Nobody else other than my mom was invited into my home.
Well, she did. Bring somebody else into your home.
I had never seen the person.
Well, I'm telling you,
she
did. She did, so your judgment wasn't very good. In choosing your mother, listen to me, your judgment wasn't very good in choosing your mother to clean your house.
I believe my judgment was just fine. Aside from the fact that she had been incarcerated before, it doesn't mean that she would do anything like that again.
Well, she brought somebody, listen to me, she brought somebody into your house and they were smoking dope in your house.
I'm glad you believe her, but I don't know that that's true. I know that my mom has not been on drugs for many years. I know that she does have permanent psychosis because of doing drugs for many years, and that is true. But she is not a current drug user, otherwise I wouldn't bring her into my house because I wouldn't trust her around my stuff personally.
Ms. Michaud, that's your problem. You want to have this unabiding faith in your mother with whom you say you never resided when you were growing up, who was incarcerated most of that time. That's up to you. I absolutely, 100% believe her when she says that she came home the day before she moved out and your mother was in the house smoking dope, which, as far as I'm concerned, gives her the right to leave in the middle of the month. Well, I'm speaking. What day of the month did you move out?
It was the 18th.
So you want prorated rent for the 12 days that you weren't there?
That's correct.
Okay, and how much does that come to?
$146.50.
My mother had not moved in at that point. She was a guest of mine.
Excuse me?
Shh. Listen to me. She doesn't. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Michaud. She doesn't. Listen. Try to listen. I know you've got a lot going on in your hair and your face, everything else, but try to pay attention. She doesn't have to live in your house. You have invited a guest into your home, your mother, who was involved in behavior that I believe could have endangered someone else who was living in the house. If the police had come to your house and found your mother and someone else in possession of crack cocaine in your house, everyone in the house would have been involved in that drug sweep. So she was very smart to move out. And since you have acknowledged that you invited your mother into the house for the purposes of cleaning, you can't say she had no right to move. She did have a right to move. And since you invited this problem into your house, you have to compensate her for the 12 days in rent that she did not have use and enjoyment of her room. Well, that's my ruling. You may not like it. That's why you go to
her boyfriend.
That's why I'm speaking.
And he's in
listen,
my and he's
listen to
in
me.
my house.
Listen to me very
For
carefully.
the whole time she was there.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. I don't know where else you work or what else you do to enhance your senses, but in my courtroom, I speak, I listen.
Obviously, you don't listen very well.
You don't. I'm listening. You're not hearing what I'm saying because you don't like the answer. How much is your security?
$200. I have a copy of the sublease as well.
Can I see it, please?
And I have a copy of the letter she told me to vacate immediately.
Okay.
She wanted me to pay for her mother's rent for the next month.
Listen. Did you write this letter? There will be a $500 rent increase for your bedroom and private bathroom starting July 1st. Did you write this?
Yes, that's what
All right, good.
told me to do.
$146.50 and $200 for your security deposit. Do you have any pictures of the ruined rug that was allegedly caused by her cats?
No, but
Good. Now I would like to see what was written on the internet.
This is a networking site that my coworkers, my supervisors and boss, as well as my family and friends read. I was contacted by one of my coworkers.
Well, the one thing I do know for sure, Miss Michoud, is that you have a filthy mouth.
Thank you.
And I assume that you work in this town?
Yes, I do.
Good. I certainly hope that enough people, since we do have a reasonable audience in this town, watch this and know that I personally am offended that a woman would use the kind of vulgarities that you do written. I don't think, quite frankly, Miss Rose, that any fair-minded, reasonable person would accept anything that you wrote here as true.
Oh, of course not.
Because she clearly is a demented, sick girl. I don't know how she finds work in this town, but clearly there are a lot of demented, sick people who want demented, sick employees. That's the problem here sometimes. I can't judge that. Clearly, this is miserable. I'm not going to ask her how she's going to establish to my satisfaction that you committed the kinds of sex acts that she attributes to you, because certainly you don't want that, and I wouldn't, because it's really unseemly. Suffice, I'm speaking! I'm speaking!
Am I going to speak at all this?
No, go speak outside. Somebody who wants to hear you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $346.50. Thank you.
Toodles.
Daryl Myricks claims his former classmate, Winter Goodwin, punched out his car window. Winter claims Daryl's brother pushed her into the car. She is countersuing for medical bills.
What's your first name?
Daryl.
It's your mother?
Yeah.
Miss Myricks, you weren't there the date of this incident, but you're involved because the car that was allegedly damaged by Winter?
Yes.
Was owned by you?
Yes.
So why don't you have a seat? Okay. If we need anything, I'll call you.
Okay.
And Miss Goodwin?
Yes.
This is your daughter, Winter.
Yes.
And you weren't there the date of this incident, where your daughter says that this whole incident was provoked by Daryl and his brother. And
yes.
You're counterclaiming because she was injured, had to go to the hospital with glass in her hand.
Yes.
So why don't you sit down? Mm-hmm. How old are you, Daryl?
17.
17.
And you have a long history of not liking each other. Is that right?
Yes.
Why don't you like each other?
Your Honor, she really doesn't like me. I have no problem with Winter.
What don't you like about him?
No, he don't like me. He never liked me since September.
What made you think he didn't like you, Winter?
Because Ivic Nuttall is my friend.
Ivic?
Yes.
Is your friend?
And he came to me in school saying what he was going to do to him, and I told them to keep me up out of it. And so that's how I got involved, because of his brother.
Oy. All right. Now, I want you to tell me, Daryl, what happened on April 9th?
Okay, Your Honor. Friday, me and my friend Katrina, who lives out there, we have made plans to go to the bowling alley on Saturday, and we were on our way to pick him up. As I was entering the entrance to my friend Katrina's house, Winter, along with Ivic and others, were blocking the entrance.
Had you spoken to any of these people that day?
No. And I rolled down my window politely and I said, Winter, could you please move off the street?
Politely?
Yes, politely, because that's what type of person I am. I'm a polite person. And she started cursing me out like, MF, you have no business being out here. You don't live out here, so you can move out your car and move out my way. Well, by this time, her, Ivic, and the rest with his sister surrounded my car.
Is that you? You're the sister?
I'm Winter's sister.
You're Winter's sister.
And they all surrounded my car, and so therefore I couldn't move nowhere. Winter came up to my car, and she took her fist and busted out my back window, but they still wouldn't let me move out the way. So then she had run away, and she came back with a bat and busted out my driver window. Once she busted out the driver's side window, she put her arm in the car, unlocked the door, and pulled me out along with her friends, and they started beating me up.
You have a police report?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Interesting.
Okay. Now I'll hear you, Miss Goodwin.
All right. On April 9th, Daryl and his friend Brente called us and told us to meet them up at the bowling alley. So about 6 to 8 o'clock, they kept playing on the phone.
Who were they calling?
They was calling me and my friend Isaac, my witness Isaac.
Okay.
We went to my house at 8 o'clock to ask my mom could we go to a party on Hobart Street. She said yeah if we took my little sister Raven. So then we walked back to Isaac's house. They was parked in the front. They came out. Then Daryl rushed Isaac. So then after that, his brother Roy hit me on the side of my face. Then that's when I turned around and hit him. And then after that, we got to fighting. He pushed me into the window. I was forced into that window.
Just a second.
So then that's how my hand got injured.
That's not what the witness says.
Okay.
The police report from a witness who was at the scene, that was one of your friends that the police officer spoke to, says the female, that's you, took the bat from the male. The female then tried to punch the male, but hit the driver passenger window and shattered the window.
That's not what happened, Your Honor. We never talked to the police until he got to the hospital.
Not you. I'm not talking about you.
Me or my witness.
Well, there were a lot of people out there.
We never talked to the police, Your Honor.
So the police is lying?
Yes, he is.
You're the brother?
No.
Friend?
Yes, ma'am.
Name?
Jerry Ashley.
Were you in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing there, Jerry?
We was going out there to get a friend to go to the bowling alley.
But you had already gotten him, because he was in the car, according to this police report. There were 3 of you in the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Where does he live? Give me the address.
I don't know the address, but he lived in the front of Mary Hill Apartments.
And where did he meet you?
He met us right there. When you come inside Mary Hill, or the entrance, he met us right there.
So then you were leaving, because he was in the car already.
No, ma'am.
Why weren't you leaving?
Because they had blocked the car.
Who blocked the car, Jerry?
Winter, Ivic, and some of her friends, his brothers, his sisters, they all blocked the car. Even the little girl blocked the car.
She's not so little.
Well, you know.
I'll get to you in a minute. How old are you?
18, Your Honor.
Okay, Ivic. Up.
Yep.
How old are you, Ivic?
15.
What's the problem that you have with these guys?
Nah. Every time we was in school, he said, like, find me, it's like I'm Michael Jackson, so he'll whoop me, stuff like that.
What?
He said, find me like he find Michael Jackson. Like, I'm gonna be Michael Jackson, so he can whoop me and stuff like that.
Do you understand this? Are you following this?
Not at all.
No, I thought maybe I was missing something. So now I want you to tell me, Ivic, what happened on April 9th.
From 6 o'clock to 8, Brent.
No, I want you, don't look at the heavens. God is not going to help you with this, Ivic. Only the truth will set you free. So you look at my eyes.
6 through 8 o'clock, Brent, Daryl, they was calling my phone telling me to come to the bowling alley. But I was like, nah. So then after a while, they start driving past the Maryville Apartments telling Winter and that he wanted to fight me and stuff like that. And they was 3 cars deep. But first, me, Winter, and Raven went to her mama's house to ask her, could we go to a party? And she said, yeah, so when I was...
So first this car is driving by, and Winter, who is afraid, right, goes in to ask her mother if she can go to a party.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me, so that they're driving by with their friends. And that's very intimidating, right? They're looking to fight you.
Yeah.
Step up. You're her mother?
Yes.
Do you remember your daughter coming inside and asking if she can go to a party?
Yes.
What did she say to you?
She asked me could her and Raven go to a party, and I gave her permission. The only way that she can go to that party was to take Raven.
She didn't say to you there are guys outside that are looking for trouble, looking to beat up Ivic?
No, she did not.
Shh. Put your hand down. She didn't say that to you. She didn't say, Mom, I'm afraid because there are people out there, there are cars out there going back and forth. She didn't say that to you.
No.
Now, she was safe inside her house, correct?
Yeah.
If you would have known that there were cars outside waiting to beat up Ivic and maybe her, you wouldn't have let her go out again, would you?
No, I wouldn't have.
Good, have a seat. Winter.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is what you swore to. On April 9th at around 6 o'clock, Daryl's friend, not Daryl, Daryl's friend called me and told Ivic and me to come to the neighborhood bowling alley because Daryl wanted to fight Ivic. That's what you wrote. I told his friend that Daryl knew where we were if he wanted to fight. For the next 2 hours, Daryl and a car of 5 of his friends circled the streets of my neighborhood. They were screaming obscenities and trying to instigate a fight. Ivic and I ignored them. Around 8 o'clock, I went across the street to talk to my mom. When I crossed the street back to Ivic's house, Daryl was parked on the street with 2 carloads of his friends. They were just sitting there stalking Ivic's house. I went inside and got Ivic with the intention of ignoring Daryl and his friends and going to a party. That's what you wrote.
I know what I wrote.
But that's not what you're telling me.
That is what I'm telling you. You didn't even let me finish my story.
I'll let you finish your story. I'm at your mother's house when you went inside to ask her if you could go to a party, despite the fact that a couple of hours before, a guy had said he's coming over to the house, he was going to fight you because you invited him over. He said, you want to fight? You know where we are. Come on over. And you say for the next 2 hours, the cars went back and forth stalking Ivic's house. Then you went inside and asked your mother if you could go to a party. Nowhere did you tell your mother that there was a problem. And I find that hard to understand, Winter.
Well, I ain't tell her what happened because they weren't even supposed to be out there. We was about to get in the car and leave. So then I tried to go in his house to get his mom. His brother Roy hit me on the side of my face. I hit him back. We got to fighting. He pushed me into his mom's window, and then that's when I lost my balance. And then that's how the window got broke.
Are you finished now?
Yeah.
Good. Did you see how the back window got broken?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did the back window get broken?
By Winter hand.
And how did the side window get broken?
By the bat that Winter had, Your Honor.
Where did the bat come from?
After they did all that, she fled away from the accident and then came back with the bat.
Did you ever have the bat in your car?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have the bat in your car?
No, Your Honor.
I believe you. Sit down. Can I have the estimate, please, for the damage to the car? Put your hand down, Ivic. Did you have it fixed?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you step up, please? Would you tell me how much it cost you to fix both windows?
It came out to about $170.
You have bills here for $870.
That's the estimate.
But it actually cost you less.
Yes.
You can sit down. Stay there with your son. This young man did not hurt your hand. You hurt your own hand.
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Sure you did.
His brother pushed me.
You have no lawsuit against his brother here today. You're suing him for your medical bills. And that's not what your friends say happened to your hand. What your friends say happened to your hand is you went to punch somebody, they probably moved out of the way, and you punched the car window instead. That's what your friends say happened. So your counterclaim's dismissed. You owe him $170 to fix the window. I believe him. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Carpenter Jeffrey Castleberry is suing his former boss, Megan Watson, for non-payment of services rendered. Megan says Jeffrey's work was substandard.
Mr. Castleberry, you worked for the defendant in her construction business. You quit over some social problem that you had. It seems that you were dating her sister. According to you, got into some sort of a kerfuffle with her sister and decided it would be best if you didn't work with her anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
So you quit. And you claim at the time that you quit, you were owed wages. Miss Watson seems to acknowledge that you were owed wages, but she said that you took some tools that belonged to her and didn't return them, but primarily that she went and examined the work that you had done and found it to be substandard, and she had to arrange to have that work done by somebody else, so she doesn't owe you any money. And she's counterclaiming for the tools and having to have the work redone. It's a little nonsense. Not the tools necessarily, the work redone is nonsense. When did he start to work for you?
About the middle of March of 2007.
And what was the financial arrangement that you had with him?
He got paid on the jobs once I got paid on the jobs. It was
Is
a
that how-
percentage of each job.
Is that how you were paid, sir, a percentage of each job?
I don't know if it's a percentage. It was a set rate for each job. When she was paid for it, she would write me a check and she would attach one of these pay statements, which has the check number, the date, how much I was paid, which job it was, and what I did. And each time she gave, she would give, this was the first one and second, etc.
Okay, can I have it, please? And when did you quit, sir? On what date?
April 2nd.
So you only worked there a couple of weeks. Were you paid this last one, this
Yes.
pay statement, April 3rd?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid on this?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid on this?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's for all the time that you worked there?
That was for the other jobs, yes.
For the other jobs. Had you ever had a discussion with her about any work that you did while you were working for her that was unsatisfactory?
No, ma'am.
So any work that you did pursuant to that list that you had and work that you completed, you got one of these and you were paid for it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, give me the figures on the work that you did that you were not paid for.
$355.
Okay. But he did do this $355 worth of work.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you owe him $355.
Yes, ma'am. There's another job that he did an estimate on for me, and per his estimate, the door was wrong. I had to pay someone else to correct the work that from where he estimated the door being wrong.
You mean he measured it wrong?
Yes, ma'am. It was too small.
Show him.
Mr. Moore's door that you measured, and you said it was a 6-0 door.
Mm-hmm.
The rough opening on that door was...
Door that we both measured.
You measured that door.
We both
Just
measured.
a second. You said that you measured it and she measured it?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
As we measured the door...
Who's we?
Her and I.
You were there together?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there together?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, then you have a problem. You're the construction boss.
Yes, ma'am.
So?
I did measure the door. I wrote the information down that he gave me and consulted
Were
with the
you
customer.
there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, then you should have checked him a little bit better. You owe him $355. Now, are you angry with him for some reason?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because he stole some of my tools, and I have
Okay.
the receipts for those.
Tell me what tools he stole.
I have a reciprocating saw that I purchased right here.
Do you
that
have
I
that?
no longer have.
No, ma'am.
Where is it?
I never had any of her tools. As a matter of fact, some of my tools were left at her parents' house, and after I quit, I asked if she could meet me up the street to get my tools. She let me get the tools out of the back of a truck, which was my saw, and I had a bucket with my tools in it. And she was present when I did that.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, but I believe my tools were in his bucket because we worked out of the same truck.
Well, what do you mean you believe?
Because I no longer have my tools as of the day I gave
is that what
him
makes
back
you think
his.
he has them?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not proof, madam, of anything. Who is this?
This is my sister.
This is the one that you were dating?
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't work out?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You owe him $355. It didn't work out. You have to pay for the work. You know, it's not always a good idea to go to work for relatives.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it tends to be messy. But, Miss Watson, what I have before me are statements of when he worked for you, what you paid him, and it appears that until there was this brouhaha with your sister, his work was fine. His work became unsatisfactory is when there was a problem. So I find that a little suspect. You have to pay him the $355 that you owe him. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. 22-year-old daycare provider Melanie Bartlett is suing former client Thomas Jones for unpaid daycare fees and late charges. Thomas says Melanie left his son in the care of a certified schizophrenic.
Miss Bartlett, you run a daycare service, is that right?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Jones had one child,
Yes.
a little boy,
Yes, ma'am.
enrolled in your daycare. Is your claim that he took the child out of daycare without giving you notice, that he owes you for a certain period of time that the child was there when he didn't pay, and he also owes you for a whole bunch of late fees because he took the child out without notice? Mr. Jones says that he owes you some money for the daycare.
That's correct, Your Honor.
It is his claim that he had good cause to remove his son from your daycare because you were not properly caring for him.
That is not true, Your Honor.
So let's resolve what we can resolve, and then we'll get on to what's in dispute. How much money, Mr. Jones, do you owe her for the time your son, who was how old at the time?
14 and a half, 15 months, Your Honor.
How much do you owe Miss Bartlett for the time she did, in fact, care for him?
Approximately 2 weeks, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's
And
untrue. He paid me the first week, and then after that, I had no other payment from him.
Well, I'm trying to recall. First weeks were paid in full. The second week, I received partial payment. That's what you said.
$45.
Well,
Yes.
but you have to add that.
Yes.
So we paid you partially.
Yes.
For the second week. So each week was how much? Ms. Bartlett?
$160. And the late fees are $10.
Just a second. $435 is what you owe her for the time your son was there and you didn't pay.
That's correct, ma'am.
Now let's get to termination fee and all of that stuff. Miss Bartlett, How many children do you take care of?
I just started my daycare, so I was in the process of getting my license, and he was my first customer.
Were you licensed at the time?
No. I made him aware of that. I have the paperwork that I was in the process of getting the license, and I made him aware of that when he enrolled his son.
At the time you took care of him, you were not a licensed daycare provider. Is that what you're telling me?
I was in the process of getting the license. It was just paperwork.
At the time you took care of his son, you were not a licensed daycare provider.
No.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
How did you locate her?
Through the internet.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
Unfortunately, I do not, Your Honor.
I do.
Let me see it, please. Oh, well, this is deceptive, Miss Bartlett. Melanie Bartlett, that's you. License number upon request.
The only choice was to put in a license number or to say upon request. And I was
No, the choice is I don't have one. That's your choice. When I say it's deceptive, it says upon request. Upon request means I have one and I'll give it to you if you ask me for it. So that's deceptive. Now let me see the contract that he signed. In the contract, do you say that you are not licensed?
I didn't mention anything about being licensed or not licensed in the contract, no.
Well, then that's deceptive, Miss Bartlett. That's one thing. Got to ask questions.
Yes,
Better questions when you're turning over the most precious commodity that you have to somebody that you don't know your license. Check to make sure it's a valid license with the state. You know how to do that now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. The most egregious thing, if it's true, is he removed the child from your care during the second week in October. Is that right?
Approximately that, yes, ma'am.
And on October 7th, according to you, something happened. Want to tell me what happened?
I was informed by Melanie that she was going to a funeral. She asked if she could take my son to this funeral. She told me her mother would be going to watch my son.
That is untrue.
I don't want to hear.
I agreed to this, and I later found out that my son was left in the care of someone who was not qualified, alone in a car with him for, I don't know how long, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And this individual happens to be a state-diagnosed schizophrenic, and,
That's what you wrote.
And I'm very fortunate that nothing happened to my son, that this wasn't a point where, something went wrong.
And after that, you took him out.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
He knew the day before. My ex-boyfriend was doing work with him, and he informed him of the funeral that I would be attending. He brought it up as soon as he came to pick up his child that day, and I told him I had a friend who could watch his son, and I told him it was the friend he was referring to, who happens to be schizophrenic.
That's not true.
Listen to me.
There was nothing wrong.
Listen to me. You have to skip a funeral. You have a job.
I know.
Listen to me. Did you leave this child in a car?
Yes.
Wrong. You don't do that.
I left him in there with my friend. The air conditioning was on, and it was
Listen to me. That's not your job. You have one job when you take care of a 14-month-old baby.
He
and
didn't
it's not
say
to go.
anything that
I'm
he didn't want
speaking
him
to
to
you.
go.
And it's not to go to a funeral. And it's not to leave a baby in a car. And it's not to leave a baby in a car with someone who was on disability for a psychiatric illness. Because according to what you said in your statement, because you anticipated what he was going to say, I was attending a funeral for my ex-boyfriend's family member. I left Jacob asleep in the car for a total of 10 minutes with a good friend. He is a schizophrenic, but he's been on his medication. Did they give you a license?
Yes.
That's a big mistake.
I would trust him with my own 9-month-old daughter. and
That's
he's watched
your
her on several
prerogative.
occasions.
Listen to me. That is your prerogative. You can trust him with your 9-month-old if you wish. You cannot trust him with somebody else's 9-year-old. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
So you don't get termination fees or late fees or any other fees.
He knew the day before that...
Listen, I don't care what he knew. There is no way that you're going to tell me that you told him that you were going to leave his son in a car with a diagnosed schizophrenic but who's taking his medication. I don't believe that you told him all of that.
My mother was there when I told him
wouldn't
that.
believe you if you told me or your mother told me that. What I am going to give you is the money that he owes you for the time that he used your services.
It's written in the contract about the late fees. He gave me no notice. I had no
I wouldn't give you a second notice.
I had no idea he was not going to bring his son back to me.
Listen to me. I don't care whether you knew or not. You're not getting it. Maybe your mother can explain it to you. Maybe the state where you live will listen. Because after what I said to you, if you still think that it was appropriate to leave a child in the care of a diagnosed schizophrenic who receives disability, that speaks to your judgment in caring for infants ages 0 to 2, which is what you wouldn't let you take care of a guppy age 0 to 2. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $435, and you're lucky you're getting it. That's all.